Chapter 376. The atmosphere in the banquet was very oppressive because the Empress's slender figure was exuding a spiritual pressure, causing everyone to be unable to breathe. Zhu Tian didn't have any intention of stopping as he continued speaking. Respected Your Majesty, could it be that Voidless Realm is intentionally suppressing Dongfang family? Or was it the Dongfang family's meritorious service? Are you trying to frame me? Ordinary families wouldn't even know about this kind of secret text, and only Voidless Realm and the 5 great families knew about this matter. So, how did this man know about it? Dong Huang Baiji immediately thought of Yi Hua, because she had already told Yi Hua about this matter. However, he looked at the girl beside him. She was also a member of the Dongfang family. Back then she had only killed all the men. She had not killed the women or the girls. This was also the reason why Zhu Tian had to subdue Dongfang Yuer. He wanted to make Dongfang Yuer's wife seem to conform to common sense. Dong Huang Baiji thought to herself. I don't even know about the case back then, and I haven't even been born yet. After that, I only heard a little about it, but I didn't try to find out more about it. Could it be that there's really a grievance in this case? But regardless of whether he was wronged or not, he had lost all his face today. Bastard. Hubby, come quickly. Your wife is being bullied. If Yi Hua were to know what Dong Huang Baiji was thinking right now, he would definitely feel extremely happy. Now that you know how to look for my husband for help, I, the Supreme Overlord, am not going to help you, and I am going to let you know just how big of a mistake it is to leave me. Zhu Tian gently caressed Dongfang Yuer's cheeks and faintly said, My Yuer had to endure a lot of pressure. Because she was weak, she was sold into the Bai family, and lived in the abyss of suffering. Now she has finally escaped from the abyss of suffering, but she still bears the grievances of the entire Dongfang family. Respected Empress, are you going to let the murderer go free? This was absolute heaven's solo performance. Every word he said caused others to blush with shame. In addition to Dongfang Yuer's weak expression, everyone seemed to believe that she had been wronged. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly, I will naturally investigate this matter thoroughly. Lady Empress is extremely intelligent. I believe that not long from now, you will be able to clear Dongfang family's name. Zhu Tian's words caused Dong Huang Baiji to be very angry, but at the same time, there was nothing she could do. Chu, he suddenly shouted, What do you mean innocent or not? Don't try to confuse the Empress here. Your Majesty, this man's background is unknown. Duan Ho said. Zhu Tian said indifferently, Respected Empress, I am also the son-in-law of the Guan family. Guan Tong was speechless. The other 4 patriarchs looked at Guan Tong in unison as if asking, Was he sent by you? You actually broke the agreement years ago just for the death of a son. The 4 family heads were furious. This Guan Tong wanted his son-in-law to bring up the past again. This was revenge. Guan Tong, is he your son-in-law? Dong Huang Baiji asked. Guan Tong stammered and then said, He's my daughter's boyfriend. Zhu Tian said softly, When Yan Xen has my child, he will naturally be my son-in-law. Everyone, too shameless. He had never seen such a shameless person, using a child to kidnap the daughter of an aristocratic family. Even Dong Huang Baiji thought that this man came here under Guan Tong's orders. Zhu Tian let out a sigh of relief. This ancient godly item originally belonged to the Dongfang family, and now that it has fallen into the hands of the Dongfang family's descendant, it seems to be perfectly justifiable. He should be able to participate in the election, right? Forcing me to abdicate, Yi Hua was very satisfied with Zhu Tian's performance. Dong Huang Baiji was quite angered today. If I don't agree to it, Voidless Realm will become an evil power that bullies the weak, and if I agree to it, I won't have any face left. That would be equivalent to slapping my face. However, compared to Voidless Realm's authority, I still have to throw away my face. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Zhu Tian coldly and said, This girl is going to participate in the election? Respected Your Majesty, of course, she will be the one to participate in the election. Zhu Tian gave Dong Huang Baiji enough face, causing Dong Huang Baiji to feel slightly more comfortable. Yi Hua saw that the corner of Baiji's mouth was twitching, and he nearly laughed out loud. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, All right. I will make an exception this once and allow her to participate in the election. Everyone who was present inhaled a mouthful of cold air. I didn't expect that such a turn of events would occur today. Voidless Realm abolished the qualifications of 2 candidates, and in the end, 1 more candidate was accepted. Furthermore, the person who accepted the election was an ancient godly item that was lost. This bespectacled man sure is smart. He actually made the Empress unable to refute him. Tang Wushuang didn't expect that things would turn out like this. Bai Cixin also didn't expect that things would turn out like this. That day she was clearly going to sit on the seat of an aristocratic family, but her plans were disrupted by Tang Wushuang. And today this person appeared. I feel like the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. What a scheming man. Zhu Tian cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty is wise, this humble one admires you. Can you make an announcement now? Announcement? Everyone completely didn't understand what Zhu Tian was talking about. Yu Quan said gravely, to participate in the election of an aristocratic family, one has to go through an evaluation of strength and assets. Zhu Tian pushed Dongfang Yuer to the front of him and said, Your Majesty, she is just an ordinary person, and she has an ordinary bank card with her. In the bank card there are a few thousand kuai that she earned from working. This is all of the assets that she has. Furthermore, she doesn't have any other competitors. Everyone's heart trembled. What this man said is true. Tang family and Bai family have been abolished and Xiaoyi is the same as well. All of the competitors are gone, so who else is there left to participate in the election? Good. You are very good. Donghuang Baiji was really angered by Zhu Tian. Although there isn't any evidence, Donghuang Baiji feels that Zhu Tian is definitely one of Yihua's people. Yihua. No matter if he is one of your people or not, you still have to take the blame. Zhu Tian is completely unreasonable. However, a woman's characteristic is that they are unreasonable. This is where Yihua miscalculated. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your praise. I don't deserve it. Donghuang Baiji signaled Yu Quan to announce it. Yu Quan was also very puzzled, but he had no choice but to announce it. Dongfang Yuer, listen up. Yu Quan shouted. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, You, go. Zhu Tian, thank you. Dongfang Yuan, was very moved. This was a man who truly cared about her. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, No need to thank me. I will definitely bully you when we get back tonight. Dongfang Yuaner's face turned red as she hurriedly walked forward. Yu Quan shouted, From today onwards the Dongfang family will become the sixth family. Patriarch Dongfang Yuer, enjoy all the privileges of the aristocratic families. One sentence was heaven and one sentence was earth. You have performed very well today. Dongfang Yuan stretched out her hands, and the ancient divine weapon-piercing tomb slowly floated into her hands. As for Donghuang Baiji, she didn't want to stay here any longer and she said coldly, Return. Qingya took a look at this junior sister. This is also good. In the future no one will bully her anymore. He was completely unaware that Dongfang Yuan was being bullied by absolute heaven every single day. And when Dongfang Yuan saw her senior sister, she wanted to say a few words to her, but she didn't dare to and just watched them leave. Dongfang Yuan became the sixth family in the north. Although she didn't have much strength, she still had all the rights that an aristocratic family should have. Many family heads came over to fawn on her, and Zhu Tian acted as her guardian. After all, Dongfang Yuan was pure and kind, and it was very easy for her to be deceived by others. For example, she was deceived by me. What a silly girl. After watching a good show today, Yihua felt very comfortable. Thus he returned home. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't take any transportation back, because they weren't in the mood to do so. After returning back to Voidless Realm's bedroom, Donghuang Baiji began smashing things in her room, while Qingya helplessly looked at her from the side. Bastard, shameless bastard, I have lost all of my face today. Donghuang Baiji lost her temper, and all of the first-rate spirit tools were turned into dregs. Chapter 377. Qingya, if today's trap was set up by Yihua, we would have lost by a notch. Qingya laughed lightly, if my guess isn't wrong, this is a trap set up by Yihua. However, this time around he is very smart and we don't have any evidence to prove it. Bastard. Yihua, this damned Yihua actually tricked his wife. Donghuang Baiji was about to go crazy from anger. This is the first time I've heard of a husband setting up a trap for his wife. Alright, we have to think of a way to turn the tables. Qingya wouldn't admit defeat so easily. Although the two wives had no evidence, a woman's sixth sense told them that it was their husband who was messing around behind the scenes. Everything happened when they ran away from home. How could it be so coincidental? Anyway, it was just one sentence. I don't care, it's Yihuan. Donghuang Baiji gradually calmed down, and in her heart, the flames of victory were ignited. I will definitely not let Yihua look down on me. Firstly, we need to ascertain the reason why Yihua did all those things. Qingya said faintly while sitting on a jade chair at the side. The maids were carrying the freshest tea and fruits over to Qingya. Donghuang Baiji snorted. isn't it because you want us to return? This is only one of the reasons. What he did today was to make us lose face and strike at our confidence so that we would lower our heads and ask him for help. Qin Ye's guess was really direct and very accurate. Dong Huang Baiji remembered that this was what she was thinking back then. What a shame, I nearly fell for my husband's tricks. Then what is he planning to do next? Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. After taking a sip of the tea, she felt much more comfortable. Qin Ye said gravely, if my guess is correct, Yi Hua wants to overthrow the other 5 great families. Isn't he just messing around? Dong Huang Baiji immediately stood up in excitement. After all, this person could be counted as her subordinate. Qin Ye shook her head. From what happened with Dongfang family, it can be seen that Yi Hua is trying to help Dongfang family clear their grievances. Furthermore, Yi Hua must have definitely found some sort of clue. Today, the expressions of the 5 family heads who were present at the scene also seemed to be a bit strange. Dong Huang Baiji asked confusedly, Qin Ye, are you saying that all 5 aristocratic families are participating in this? Yi Hua wants to use this matter to get rid of the 5 aristocratic families? Qin Ye nodded her head. But why did he do that? Dong Huang Baiji was confused. Isn't he just making things difficult for you and me? That day both of us were speaking up for the outsiders, and right now he is trying his best to mess with those people, and wants us to go and help them. Qin Ye laughed bitterly. Only a child would do such a thing. Yi Hua is a child that hasn't grown up yet. If we help them and fail, Yi Hua will be able to see us as a joke. Qin Ye nodded her head. Bastard. I'll strangle him to death right now. Alright, Yi Hua didn't do anything much either. He is just helping a weak lady, we mustn't panic. Qin Ye said with a warm smile. In actuality, Yi Hua's original intention for this entire matter was still good, which was to help others clear their grievances. Yi Hua didn't know that his lovely wife could be evaluated in such a way. I, the Supreme Overlord, am only making use of you. You are thinking too much. Then how can we turn defeat into victory and stop it? On the contrary, we have to investigate the truth of this matter before Yi Hua. We cannot let Yi Hua's people wash away this injustice. No matter what, Qin Ye was still a CEO and she had played in business wars before, thus she knew a bit about this matter. Right now, what they had to do was to settle this matter before Yi Hua. If that were to happen, Yi Hua's plan would be ruined. That was indeed the case. If Yi Hua didn't get the initiative this time, then Voidless Realm couldn't be said to be incompetent. On the other hand, if Qin Ye and Dong Huang Baiji were to find the evidence first, then Voidless Realm would be seen as an impartial big shot, and they would be respected by more people. Right now they were competing to see who was faster. In actuality, the most unjust thing was that Zhu Tian had already dealt with the details very well, and there was no evidence at all. But even so, Qin Ye and Dong Huang Baiji still firmly believed that Yi Hua was the one behind all of this. I'm not going to talk to you about the evidence, in any case it is you. Dong Huang Baiji thought for a moment, then shouted out, Men! Bring out the dossier of Dongfang family that year. Yes. If Dongfang family is really framed, I will not let it go. Dong Huang Baiji's beautiful eyes revealed out a bit of firmness. After all, this matter was judged by my Lord Father, and if it is wrong I will definitely correct it. Qin Ye nodded her head, then said with a light smile, And this is not only a competition with Yi Hua, this is also a competition to uphold justice in the world. Dong Huang Baiji agreed with what Qin Ye said. Yi Hua felt that this was bullshit justice. Without me being evil, how can there be justice in the world? Right now, within the bar, Yi Hua was currently opening a bottle of champagne at the bar counter and drinking with his sister-in-law. Brother-in-law, why are you so happy today? My big sister is coming back? Qin Yutong took a sip of champagne and asked curiously. Yi Hua sneered, I will be happy for them? Don't joke around. TSK, you still don't want to admit it? In actuality, you can't wait for big sister and Baiji to come back, right? What does a brat know? I am going to make your big sister beg me to come back, watch carefully. Qin Yutong spread out her hands and said helplessly, I'm just afraid that in the end, brother-in-law. Even if I am going to jump off a cliff, I will not go and beg them. Alright. Brother-in-law, you are awesome, sister-in-law shall give you a toast. Ding. Yi Hua drank the champagne in a single gulp. Your Honor. Zhu Tian suddenly walked out from the darkness, giving Qin Yutong a fright. I didn't even notice that Zhu Tian had arrived. Miss Qing. Zhu Tian said with a light smile towards Qin Yutong. Yi Hua trusted his sister-in-law a lot. There were a lot of things that Qin Ye didn't know about, but Qin Yutong knew about everything. From this, it could be seen that Qing Yutong was very favored by Yi Hua. "This is Zhu Tian, another subordinate of mine," Yi Hua said faintly. Qing Yutong sized up Zhu Tian and felt that his light smile was so fake, it looked even uglier than crying. "Zhu Tian, don't smile so politely, it looks really ugly." Yi Hua couldn't bear to watch on anymore. When Zhu Tian smiles, his skin moves but his flesh doesn't move. Recently, Zhu Tian had been learning how to smile. "Smiling is a type of courtesy, but I really can't bring myself to smile." Of course, seeing that his honor is happy, I am able to smile. This is the glory of being a subordinate, this feels great. "Your Honor, the madams should be suspicious of me," Zhu Tian said respectfully. "After causing such a ruckus today, the madams will definitely be suspicious of me." Yi Hua swirled the champagne in his hand and said indifferently, "With their unreasonable personalities, even if they don't have any evidence, they have already pinned the blame on me. Furthermore, they have already thought of a way to deal with me. Your Honor's wisdom surpasses that of Zhuge Liang. Subordinate is inferior to even one of your Honor's fingers. I hope that your Honor can bestow upon subordinate the highest wisdom and allow subordinate to do things for your Honor with all my heart." Qing Yutong felt very cold and goosebumps appeared all over her body. Chapter 378. Yi Hua said faintly, "I will give you a piece of information." "Thank you, Your Honor." Qing Yutong couldn't take it anymore. "Your conversation is so shameless. If they want to win against me right now, there is only one way. And that is to obtain the evidence of the 5 aristocratic families' crimes before us. If they were to announce it, all of our efforts would be wasted." Zhu Tian could be seen kneeling down. "Your Honor is a god." Qing Yutong, "I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I am going to go upstairs. If I continue listening to this, I will die from numbness." "Zhu Tian, they have an advantage. Baiji is able to investigate what happened back then, but you don't have such an advantage. Have you thought clearly about what you are going to do? Do you need me to remind you?" Zhu Tian was terrified, then said hurriedly, "Your Honor has already provided so much information. Subordinate doesn't dare to let Your Honor use his brain anymore. That would make subordinate seem very useless." Yi Hua let out a breath. "You are quite sensible. I didn't think of any other methods." The relationship between a superior and a subordinate was very complicated. As a subordinate, he had to understand the boss's personality, and when it was time to flatter the boss, he had to flatter the boss. Of course, Zhu Tian wasn't flattering the boss, he was praising the boss sincerely. After all, the previous His Honor was a simple-minded skeleton. If he didn't need to use his brain, he definitely wouldn't use it. "Go, try to solve the case as soon as possible. After that, I will use my ultimate technique to instantly kill them." Yi Hua laughed lightly. "Those who went against me are all howling in pain in hell. Only the 2 of you can make me love and hate you. Yes. Subordinate will take my leave now." Yi Hua took out a cigarette and slowly lit it up. Right now the atmosphere in Shao residence was very heavy. Basin after basin of blood was carried out from the room, causing everyone to feel even more depressed. Shao Yi was still not awake and was lying on the bed. Although Shu Nan's medical skills weren't as abnormal as Song Huang's, she was still an expert. Right now the medicine has already been applied on Shao Yi's body, just that, his buttocks were all smashed up. It will take a long time for Shao Yi to fully recover. Shu Nan let out a deep sigh. "My husband is still so impulsive. If only those people were here, they would at least be able to treat my husband's injuries. It's a pity that my husband cut off that path, if not, he wouldn't have ended up like this." After wiping off the bloodstains on her hands, Shu Nan walked out of the room. Yu Qi and the other women hurriedly asked, "Brother Shao, what happened?" "I spared his life," Shu Nan said helplessly. This was good news for Yu Qi and the others. As long as the man didn't die, it was fine. She could live in peace in the future. The women's thoughts were very simple. It was just that Shao Yi didn't want to live a peaceful life. He wanted to stand above everyone. "Shu Nan, there's a man who claims to be Cindy's relative waiting in the side hall," Yu Qi said. Shu Nan frowned and said in a deep voice, "I'll go take a look. You guys look after Brother Shao." "Yes." Arriving at the side hall, Shu Nan saw a man dressed in calm clothes sitting and drinking tea. From his appearance, he didn't look like a bad person, but who knew? "Hello, I'm Shu Nan." When the man saw Shu Nan walking over, he stood up and smiled. "Hello, my name is Wu Lu." Shu Nan smiled and shook hands with her before sitting down. "You're Cindy's?" "My cousin from afar has recently come to Zijin City to take care of some matters, so I came over to take a look." Wu Lu maintained a faint smile from beginning to end. but for some reason this smile made Shunan's whole body numb. Especially that pair of squinting eyes, it gave people an illusion of a very kind person. So it's Cindy's cousin from afar. Cindy has recently gone abroad. Hearing Shunan's words, Wu Lu paused for a moment. Shunan didn't notice this subtle action, but Wu Lu knew that something had happened, because Nangong Cindy's location was still here. Wu Lu asked curiously, I saw that the servants of the Shao residence are very busy today. Did something happen? You're overthinking. They're just preparing for the family banquet. I see. Then I'll have to bother you. Wu Lu stood up and said faintly. He still didn't know what happened today. I'll send you off. Shunan was also very polite. Wu Lu smiled and nodded. The two of them walked towards the door. However, just when they reached the door, they heard the guards outside shouting angrily. Who are you? The person who killed you. Ah. After a few muffled sounds of someone falling to the ground, the door became quiet again. Shunan's expression instantly changed. Her husband had just fallen, and someone came to seek revenge so quickly. Wu Lu turned around and looked at Shunan. It seemed that something had really happened. The two huge mahogany doors were instantly lifted and flew towards the two of them. Wu Lu slowly waved his arm, and the two wooden doors flew towards the two of them as if they were cut by a huge blade. The one standing at the door was Qin Xuanzong. Today he was here to exterminate the Shao family. Looking at this person who had recently reincarnated, Wu Lu's expression didn't change. Qin Xuanzong looked at the smiling man in front of him and frowned. His intuition told him that this person was very dangerous. Today I'm here to take revenge. Qin Xuanzong stated his intention. Wu Lu lightly smiled and said, Sorry, the Shao family is on a holiday today. I'll come another day. Qin Xuanzong's eyes focused, and a terrifying spiritual energy erupted. He turned his hand into a palm and attacked with a violent aura. Wu Lu didn't have any intention of retreating. His right hand instantly emitted a colorful brilliance, and it instantly clashed against Qin Xuanzong's palm. Boom! The entire Shao family was shaken. Shunan, who was at the side, was directly sent flying. Her back smashed against a stone pillar and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Under this attack, the front yard was in a mess. Wu Lu sighed in his heart. As expected of a reincarnated demon emperor. This strength is extraordinary. Qin Xuanzong's eyes were filled with astonishment. Who is this person? He actually received my palm attack head-on, and it seems to be rather easy. I said the Shao family is on a holiday today. Qin Xuanzong leaped backwards. Are you trying to protect the Shao family? Is there any other possibility? Wu Lu spread his hands and said. He seemed to be very mysterious, which Qin Xuanzong couldn't see through. If you were to retreat today, I will definitely reward you generously. Wu Lu shook his head. Although he was stronger than the other party, it wasn't that easy to capture him unless it was a one-sided battle. An S-rank reincarnator shouldn't be underestimated. Leave, come back another day. Qin Xuanzong weighed in his heart. If he were to fight with him today, his chances of winning wouldn't be high. Injuries would definitely be unavoidable. How unlucky. From the looks of it, they seem to be going out. If only I came 10 minutes later. The palm attack just now made my arm numb. Qin Xuanzong shouted coldly, then I'll come back another day. Looking at Qin Xuanzong leaving, Wu Lu looked at his palm. There were black threads that looked like spiderwebs. He quickly took out a pill and swallowed it. This demon emperor's strength was indeed not bad. Chapter 379. Can you take me to see Xiaoyi now? Wu Lu faintly smiled. His narrowed eyes made people feel uncomfortable. Shunan nodded. She didn't expect Cindy's cousin to be so powerful. Wu Lu came to the bedroom, and when he saw Xiaoyi being beaten up to such a state, he was a bit shocked as well. After knowing what happened, Wu Lu exclaimed in admiration. Xiaoyi was actually stripped of his title by Voidless Realm, Shenyuan's sword was taken away by Voidless Realm, and his strength was crippled. To this immortal emperor, he might as well just kill Xiaoyi. After asking again and again, Wu Lu found out that Nangong Cindy was already dead, and the one who killed her was the black-cloaked skeleton. It was said that it was related to that bar, but it still needed to be investigated. It seemed that the boss's promotion to S rank was correct. Death mages were summoned, not transmigrated or reborn. Therefore, the space-time branch did not have any levels. Suddenly, Wu Lu thought of a good idea. Recently, the company was short of manpower. Although this immortal emperor had lost his ancient godly item and power, his foundation was still there. There seemed to be a lot of decent primordial spirits in the warehouse. Although they were slightly weak, they could at least help him recover some of his strength, making it convenient for him to help the company. These decent primordial spirits belonged to those unlucky reincarnators. They were captured when they were at their weakest, and their primordial spirits were extracted before being sent back. Although this primordial spirit was relatively weak, it still had potential. After all, those who could cultivate a primordial spirit were all very powerful. It was just that when he came over he was too weak. Shunan, if you trust me, hand your husband over to me. I can cure him and restore his strength. Wu Lu's words made Shunan very shocked, but from this person's performance just now, he was still very strong. Can I come with you? Shunan asked. Wu Lu shook his head. Shunan looked at her pale husband. When he woke up, he would definitely be in so much pain that he would want to die. Rather than seeing her husband in pain, it was better to take a gamble. If her husband was still awake, he would definitely make the same choice. All right, I hope you're not lying to me. Otherwise, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Wu Lu chuckled. You women all like to say that. Shunan immediately became worried. This person looked calm, but his words didn't seem to be reliable. By a while Shunan was deep in thought, Wu Lu and Xiao Yi on the bed disappeared. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Yi slowly opened his eyes. Scenes appeared in his mind. The Xinyuan sword was gone, his strength was gone. What was the point of living? Do you want to die? Xiao Yi was startled and looked around. It was pitch black. Who's talking? Bang bang bang. The white lights were switched on one after another. It was very dazzling. Xiao Yi frowned and closed his eyes. Xiao Yi. Before he was reborn he was a celestial emperor. Although he was a relatively weak celestial emperor, at least he still had a reputation. After he arrived on Earth, he reformed the Shao family and obtained the Xinyuan sword. People called him the Act Tough King Shao. But unfortunately, all his glory was taken away within a day. Xiao Yi's expression changed drastically. The immortal emperor was his greatest secret, not even his wives knew about it. How did he know? Wu Lu smiled and said, I know you're confused. In fact, our company specializes in catching transmigrators like you. We knew about it on the first day you came, so we arranged for Nangong Sini to be by your side. Unfortunately, she's dead. What? Sini is one of your people. Xiao Yi involuntarily shouted. He never thought that he would be arranged. Yes, but don't be disappointed. Her feelings for you are real. Every time she reports, she only picks on the light ones. You've instigated our people to defect. After a long time, Xiao Yi seemed to accept this situation. What do you want to do? Recently, the company is short of manpower. If we can have a celestial emperor like you to support us, the work efficiency should be good. As a manager, Wu Lu basically didn't go out on duty. He only gave orders. Why? Because I can let you continue to have strength. Hearing this, Xiao Yi was tempted. As Wu Lu snapped his fingers, the wall gradually moved, revealing the items inside. Xiao Yi couldn't believe it. The rows of bottles actually contained primordial spirits. What kind of organization was this? I can make an exception and arrange a weaker primordial spirit for you. If you perform well, you can naturally obtain a stronger primordial spirit. In fact, there are a few very powerful celestial emperor primordial spirits here. Unfortunately, their luck wasn't as good as yours. When they came over, they were too weak and their heads were blown off by the people below. Listening to Wu Lu's explanation, Xiao Yi was shocked. He also saw a glimmer of hope. After this experience, he also knew the importance of hugging someone's thigh. The opportunity was in front of him again. He couldn't miss it. Good. I promise you. Wu Lu was very happy. This is a living celestial emperor, and furthermore, this celestial emperor is working for me. What bullshit arrogance, this Xiao Yi is tactful. Otherwise there would be another bottle here. In actuality, Xiao Yi also thought of this point. Such an important matter has been found out by me. If I don't promise you, I might very well die. In the future we will be colleagues. I am very happy that you have joined Spacetime Branch. Spacetime Branch, Xiao Yi felt that it should be very powerful, right? 1 month passed by in the blink of an eye. Yihua was very angry. These two women are actually still stubbornly resisting. Do they really want me to use my trump card? Zhu Tian's investigation didn't have any progress at all, unless he used extreme methods, such as capturing all of them and forcing them to confess. This was the simplest and fastest method. However, this wasn't what Yihua wanted. This wasn't shocking at all. He wanted to find evidence that would make them speechless. It would be best if he could find evidence that would slap them in the face on the spot. Zhu Tian didn't find any evidence, and Dong Huang Baiji didn't find any evidence as well. It had already been more than 100 years and the evidence was basically all gone. Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji were in a deadlock just like that. Neither of them was willing to take a step back. Sometimes, when a husband and wife quarreled, the one who took a step back would be the one who would be at peace. Although there wasn't any progress in the investigation, the relationship between the 5 aristocratic families was very tense. In just 1 month, the younger generation of the aristocratic families had gotten into a fight. Although there weren't any casualties, there were still some who had their arms and legs broken. When this news reached Voidless Realm's ears, Dong Huang Baiji became very annoyed. Thus, Dong Huang Baiji ordered the 5 aristocratic families to not get into a fight. As the newly appointed Dongfang family, Dongfang Yuan was very low-key. After all, Dongfang Yuan didn't have a luxurious base, and she also didn't have any connections. Bai Zixin left Zijin City and followed her husband to Wang family's territory, which was located in Gaohai City. In the south, Wang family could be considered to have a place of their own. However, after the robbery of the ancient godly item last time, Wang Debao's credibility had been completely used up. The Southerners looked down on Wang Debao, and the 2 banquets that Wang Debao held, there weren't any big figures that came, and the only people that came were some small merchants. Tang Wushuang's family also came to the south. His master's disappearance was a huge blow to Tang Wushuang, and after Tang Wushuang came to the south, he didn't cause any trouble for Tang family. Instead, he lived his life carefully and didn't cause any trouble for others. After all, Tang Wushuang's strength was clear for all to see. Xiao Yi also left the north and his family moved to Gaohai City. And right now Xiao Yi had another identity. He was a field agent of the Spacetime branch, and he was on standby 24 hours a day. In 1 month he took on 2 missions and both of them were transmigrators. Xiao Yi was able to easily capture the transmigrators and obtain the praise of the Spacetime branch. This made Xiao Yi feel very happy and he felt that his life was pretty much the same as before. Chapter 380. The Spacetime Directorate and the Gods were 2 different systems. The former was equivalent to a technological civilization, managing the problem of smuggling between different planes. On the other hand, the Gods were in charge of the safety of the designated planes. The 2 were of different natures, so there was no conflict between them. This was also the reason why the Spacetime branch didn't intervene in the matters between the giants. Of course, sometimes they would intervene just like how Wu Lu used Die Hard, but the failure of Die Hard made Wu Lu give up. The Gods controlled the safety of the planes and there were also ranks among the Gods. After all, where there were people there would be Jianghu, not to mention the high and mighty God world. A powerful God often controlled several planes. Just how big was the entire universe? Just like the world that Yi Hua came from in the past and the current world, there were 2 different deities. Compared to the deities in the current world, the deities in the other world were more powerful. After all, the deities in the other world were more powerful. Meanwhile, Yi Hua had asked Zishan about it, and she found out that the number of overlords in this world seemed to be pitifully few. From this, it could be seen just how low the combat prowess of the overlords was. Thus, Yi Hua completely lost interest in the overlords. Gods lived in a large world with boundless spiritual qi. There were no ordinary people here, only gods. God was just a title just like human. It was just that the gods had an innate coldness towards the lower worlds. To put it bluntly, they looked down on them. In the beginning, Zishan was also the same. She did not care about the life and death of Ji family. As for Zishan, she could be considered to be a well-known figure among the deities. If not, she wouldn't have been chosen by the king and become a member of the harem. The Heavenly Palace was the capital city of the gods' world. Naturally, the Imperial Palace was indispensable, and the person who lived there was naturally the highest ruler of the entire Heavenly Palace. But today, it wasn't the Imperial Palace that was bustling, but one of the prince's mansions. Marquis Palace. People came and went at the entrance of the Ho Wangfu. Everyone held gifts in their hands and entered the Ho Wangfu with a heart full of respect. Today was Ho Xuelin's birthday, and those who came were all descendants of the royal family. Even some members of the royal family had to address him as Lord Ho. One could see Ho Xuelin's status in heaven's sanctum. I heard that Prince Ho married the beautiful and talented Miss Zishan some time ago. It seems like I'm lucky to meet her today. That's right, I heard that this Miss Zishan is proficient in the 4 arts and she is also very strong. Marquis Wangye is truly blessed. Everyone seemed to be talking about Miss Zishan, and in the backyard of the Ho mansion, there were 2 middle-aged men and a young man. One of them was the Ho master Ho Xuelin. He was dressed in luxurious clothes with golden threads, and there was an ancient godly item on his belt. The ring on his thumb was also an ancient godly item. It seemed as though the ancient godly items were just decorations to him. Even though Ho Xuelin looked like a middle-aged man, he had actually lived for tens of thousands of years. It was just that his appearance was fixed at middle-aged age. Of course, he could also look like a teenager, but a middle-aged man looked more mature and reserved. Coupled with his handsome face, he was indeed very attractive to the opposite sex. The two men beside him were Che Hongliang and Wu Man. Che Hongliang was the younger brother-in-law of the current emperor, and his sister was the empress. Wu Man was the crown prince's playmate, and his father was a valiant general. The three of them could be said to be the most influential people in heaven's sanctum, excluding the royal family. Che Hongliang's body was slightly plump, and his eyes were filled with craftiness. He was a wily old fox. On the other hand, Wu Man had the appearance of a youngster, and he was as beautiful as jade. He had a graceful bearing, and he was lightly waving the folding fan in his hand. He had the appearance of a playboy. After all, he had to accompany the crown prince to have fun, and he had to be to the crown prince's liking. "Prince Ho, why don't I see Madame Ziyuan today?" Wu Man asked with a smile while waving the folding fan in his hand. Ho Xuelin pinched onto his thumb and index finger and said faintly, "She was punished by me to face the wall and reflect on her misdeeds." Che Hongliang, who was at the side, blew away the steam on his teacup, then lightly took a sip of the tea while wrinkling his brows. Soon after, Che Hongliang said, "Prince Ho is willing to punish such a beauty, admirable. Her temperament is too arrogant, how can she not be punished?" Wu Man laughed lightly, "Today is Prince Ho's birthday, let's pardon her misdeeds. Besides, there are a lot of nobles who wish to take a look at Madame Ziyuan's appearance today." Hearing what Wu Man said, Ho Xuelin laughed loudly, "What young master said is right, let's pardon her misdeeds then. Men, bring Madame Ziyuan over." "Yes." After receiving the order, the two imperial guards immediately went to bring Madame Ziyuan over. However, what they didn't know was that Madame Ziyuan was already in trouble. "Prince Ho, there is a matter that I wish to ask of you." Wu Man placed the folding fan beside the teacup and said with a serious expression. Ho Xuelin nodded and said, "Young master, and what are you saying? You are the most popular person by the crown prince's side, even I have to be courteous to you." Prince Ho must be joking, the crown prince still has to address you respectfully as Prince Ho. Young master, and if there is anything that you need, just say it. If it is something that I can do, I will naturally do it. Ho Xuelin said with a smile. Wu Man said gravely, "The crown prince received a secret report that the descendants of Nuwa who had disappeared for a long time seem to have reappeared." "There is such a matter?" Ho Xuelin paused for a moment, then said with doubt. After hearing what Wu Man said, Che Hongliang was startled as well, then placed down the teacup. "The descendants of Nuwa? They have disappeared for a long time, and back then they had disappeared together with the Eastern Emperor clan." Ho Xuelin smiled, then picked up the teapot and poured the green tea into the teacup, causing a delightful fragrance to drift out. "That's right, Nuwa and the Eastern Emperor clan were extremely famous back then, and the females of the Eastern Emperor clan were extremely beautiful." Ho Xuelin said faintly. Wu Man nodded in agreement. The crown prince spent a lot of effort to obtain this information, and furthermore, this plane is under the jurisdiction of Prince Ho. "Impossible, such a matter actually happened within my jurisdiction?" Ho Xuelin exclaimed in admiration. "The crown prince is also afraid of breaking the rules, so he sent me over to inform the crown prince." "Inform the crown prince?" Ho Xuelin's expression sank. "Isn't the crown prince stepping too far?" Che Hongliang laughed lightly. "Since it is within Prince Ho's jurisdiction, how can we trouble the crown prince to personally go over? Prince Ho can just send a few people over." "That's even better." Wu Man didn't refute. The words that he said just now was also the crown prince's intention. Wu Man wanted to take down Prince Ho's prestige and let Prince Ho know that the crown prince isn't someone to be trifled with. "I will naturally send people over to investigate," Ho Xuelin said with a smile. In actuality, he wished that he could scold the crown prince in his heart. "After all, I was the one who placed the Eastern Emperor clan down there for the sake of the Eastern Emperor bloodline. However, up until now, no one in the Eastern Emperor clan has awakened the power of the Eastern Emperor bloodline. On the contrary, the hidden Nuwa bloodline has awakened, and even the crown prince found out about it. This is going to be a bit troublesome." "That's great, His Highness the crown prince will be very happy." The corner of Wu Man's mouth curled up into a complacent smile as he picked up the folding fan once again. This folding fan was an ancient godly item. Right at this moment, the two Imperial Guards returned, and one of the Imperial Guards leaned over and whispered a few words into Ho Shualin's ears. Ho Shualin's face remained expressionless as he smiled at the two Imperial Guards. Madame Ziyuan is angry at me, I am truly ashamed. Chapter 381. That is such a pity, I didn't get to see Madame Ziyuan's beauty. Wu Man laughed lightly, then picked up the teacup and took a sip. Che Hongliang sighed lightly. A lot of people are going to be disappointed today. I thought that your highness is hiding a mistress and is unwilling to come out. Sigh, this woman is shy, she is embarrassed to come out and meet people. Next time. Ho Shualin said with a smile. This Zishan actually ran to the secular world to escape from me. If I capture her back this time, watch how I teach her a lesson. After being married for a few months, I won't even let you touch her. If not for me, you wouldn't even have a place to stand. It will be the royal hunt in a few days, young masterin, you have to remind the crown prince to perform well. Che Hongliang said lightly. Rather than saying that it was an instruction, it was more like a disguised form of mockery. After all, Che Hongliang's sister was the empress, and the empress's son was not the crown prince. It was inevitable for the empress to be a bit dissatisfied, and thus she had to help her son to the throne. That was why Che Hongliang and Wu Ma were in opposing camps, while Ho Shualin did not stand on either side. The two of them had been talking to each other many times, but Ho Shualin was just playing dumb. Wu Ma smiled. Your highness is proficient in both the pen and the sword, you will naturally be able to perform outstandingly in the hunt. That is good. Che Hongliang said indifferently. Alright, today is my birthday, let's go out and have a drink. The three of them stood up and walked towards the front courtyard, while Ho Shualin looked for his personal guard, Lin Hong, and told him to bring some people to the secular world to look for Madame Ziyuan. Lin Hong was a man who looked to be in his 30s, he had a square face and an unyielding aura. After receiving His Highness' order, Lin Hong called two of his trusted subordinates to go to the secular world to look for Madame Ziyuan and look for the three big shots. The three of them instantly arrived at the location where Madame Ziyuan came from. Looking at the ruins in front of them, Lin Hong deeply wrinkled his brows. This is Ji family, one of the three big shots in the secular world? What is the difference between this place and a ghost town? Brother Lin, there is a godly aura here. A skinny man shouted. His name was San Chi and he was someone that Lin Hong had saved. In order to repay his kindness, San Chi had been following Lin Hong. At this moment, another tall man walked forward and sensed the aura. Brother Lin, the aura is very dense, it should be Madame Ziyuan. This person was called Li Li. Just like his name, the muscles all over his body looked like they were about to explode. After obtaining Lin Hong's recognition, he had been following him. Lin Hong's expression was very solemn as he scanned the surroundings. Madame Ziyuan must have encountered some trouble. How is it possible for someone from such a low-level world to be able to harm Madame Ziyuan? San Chi cried out in surprise, not daring to believe what was happening. Lin Hong shouted in a deep voice, San Chi, how many times have I taught you, don't underestimate the enemy? Yes. San Chi lowered his head and answered. Although Li Li appeared to be tall and big, he was definitely someone with brains. Brother Lin, from the looks of it, this Ji family has been exterminated. It is possible that Madame Ziyuan only appeared after she sensed that something was amiss, and after that she ran into those people. Li Li, your deduction is very correct. It is impossible for Madame Ziyuan to come down here for no reason at all. Madame Ziyuan must have seen that there is a problem with Ji family, thus she came down here to stop Madame Ziyuan, but unexpectedly she was captured by someone. Lin Hong felt that something was amiss. But, who is capable of capturing Madame Ziyuan? San Chi's head hurt from thinking about it. Although she was a god, her brain was the same. There were also people with low IQ. Lin Hong said in a deep voice, we came down for this matter. Let's take a look at the situation of the other two giants and ask them about the situation. Yes. After finished speaking, the three disappeared from the spot. Within Voidless Realm, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji sat in Donghuang Li's small courtyard. Donghuang Li was currently sleeping in her mother's embrace, and Donghuang Li was mumbling, Ali Mrs. Daddy. When the two women heard Ali's sleep-talking, they smiled helplessly. However, within the smile there was also bitterness. A month had passed and Yihua still didn't come to look for them. Naturally, Yihua felt uncomfortable in his heart. No matter what, his wife ran away from home. As a husband, he should at least coax his wife. However, this Yihua didn't even say a single word to his wife. Qinya rubbed onto her belly that was already bulging out, and a gentle look could be seen on her beautiful face. After becoming a mother soon, Qinya's temperament seemed to have calmed down, and she wasn't as irritable and easily angry as before. There really isn't a single clue at all. Donghuang Baiji was very puzzled. During the past month, she and Qinya had investigated all of the details, and yet they were unable to find any clue at all. Either the matter was real or the matter was concealed very well. There shouldn't be any clue at Yihua's side as well. If there was, he would have already done something long ago. Qinya said lightly. Feeling the little life in her belly, her mood became much better. Yihua is really too much. Your belly is already so round, no matter what, he still has to come and take a look at you. Donghuang Baiji felt that it was unfair for Qinya. I gave birth to Ali all by myself. Could it be that Qinya is going to walk down the same path as me? Qinya said faintly, just let him be. If worst comes to worst, I will take care of him myself in the future. Qinya, are you angry? Donghuang Baiji was still able to tell that a pregnant woman ran away from home, and her husband still doesn't care about her at all. This matter was different from me. Yihua knew that Qinya was pregnant. Qinya shook her head. Do I dare to be angry at him? He is the boss. Qinya, how about we send someone back? Donghuang Baiji asked. After not seeing each other for a month, it would be a lie if she said that she didn't miss Yihua. In actuality, being apart for a month was also beneficial. It allowed the two of them to clearly understand their feelings for each other. You aren't going to send Ali back, right? Qinya cried out in surprise. During this period of time, Ali has been calling me daddy every day. I am about to become a sinner. Donghuang Baiji smiled bitterly as she lightly caressed onto her daughter's forehead. Qinya nodded her head. That's true, it has been a long time since Yihua last saw Ali. We can also ask Ali's daddy to inquire about some information. Donghuang Baiji seemed to feel that this idea was not bad. Qinya laughed lightly. Ali is about to become a little spy because of you. I suddenly feel that I should just let Yihua teach her. Qinya, whose side are you standing on? Be careful, Yihua might turn your son into a demon king. At the very least, if he becomes a demon king, he won't be bullied by others. Qinya said faintly. Standing from a mother's perspective, Qinya naturally hoped that her son would grow up happily and be able to accomplish something after he grows up. Of course, the precondition was that her son wouldn't be bullied by others. Whoever dares to bully my son as a mother, I, as her son, will definitely fight with my life on the line. Your Majesty, 3 outsiders suddenly barged into Voidless Realm, and they claimed to be gods. An Imperial Guard hurriedly ran over and reported the emergency situation. Donghuang Baiji's brows wrinkled. Baiji, leave Ali to me, quickly go and take a look at what is going on. Qinya said gravely. 3 gods suddenly came, could it be related to Ji family's matter? Donghuang Baiji nodded her head, then handed her daughter over to Qinya, then disappeared from the courtyard. Yuan Da and the others were all waiting in the palace, and in the middle of the palace stood 3 men. Chapter 382. Among the 3 big powers, Voidless Realm's barrier was the strongest, and it gave people the feeling that Voidless Realm was protected by a king. However, wasn't there another possibility as well? Rearing them in captivity? Arranging the Eastern Emperor family within their jurisdiction and waiting for the Eastern Emperor's bloodline to awaken. Perhaps they wanted to absorb the bloodline, or perhaps they had other motives? Yuan Da and the others bowed and stood at the 2 sides. They could clearly feel the godly might that the 3 of them were emitting out. They didn't expect that 1,000 years later, a god would appear once again. Their hearts were restless. Why did they come here? Looking at their expressions, they don't seem to be in a good mood. Donghuang Baiji finished changing her clothes in her bedroom, then slowly walked into the palace and looked at the 3 people in the palace. This was also the first time that Lin Hong and the others saw Donghuang Baiji, and their eyes revealed a look of surprise. Her appearance is actually above Madame Ziyuan's, and the aura that was emitting out from her body is even more similar to that of a king. If not for the difference in status, I would have already kneeled down just now. Sanchi was very unhappy. A mere person from a low-grade world actually made me have the urge to kneel down and worship. Sanchi shouted out, Eastern Emperor family, why are you not paying respects to the gods? Only Marquis Wangye's trusted aides knew about the Eastern Emperor family's arrangement, and other people naturally didn't know about it. Donghuang Baiji looked at the 3 of them and felt the faint godly might that the 3 of them were giving off. These 3 people are indeed gods, there is no mistake about it. Just that, this god sure has a big tone. If not for Voidless Realm's rule that was passed down from generation to generation, Dong Huang Baiji wouldn't even bother to converse with them. Dong Huang Baiji slightly leaned forward and said faintly, Dong Huang Baiji pays respects to the gods. What kind of attitude is this? Sanchi reprimanded harshly. Lin Hong raised his hand indicating to Sanchi not to speak carelessly. Dong Huang Baiji, although you are a person with power in this world, you are not a king. You are nothing, please be a bit more respectful. King. Dong Huang Baiji asked confusedly. Lin Hong said faintly, there are some things that you know too much about, it is not a good thing. Dong Huang Baiji had been an empress for a very long time, and this was the first time that she met such a rude person. This is a god? He didn't seem to have the slightest intention of showing respect. In actuality, the reason why Dong Huang Baiji had such an attitude towards Dong Huang Baiji was also due to Yi Hua, because Yi Hua would often have a heart-to-heart talk with Dong Huang Baiji when he was sleeping. Although the things that Yi Hua talked to Dong Huang Baiji about weren't very big, Dong Huang Baiji deeply felt that she didn't need to listen to anyone else's orders in her life. Deity, is there a reason why you have come here today? Dong Huang Baiji asked indifferently. Her expression was the same as before, and she did not have the slightest bit of intention of backing down. San Chi and Li Li's faces darkened. It seemed like they wanted to teach him a lesson. Although Lin Hong was angry, His Highness valued the Dong Huang clan very much, and there couldn't be any mishaps. Lin Hong said in a deep voice, your attitude today, I will report it to His Highness. Bear the consequences yourself. I, the Empress, am naturally able to bear the responsibility. Dong Huang Baiji said calmly. She slowly sat on the throne and looked down at the three of them. Lin Hong coldly snorted, that's fine, I hope you can endure His Highness' anger. The expressions of Yuan De and the others abruptly changed. They didn't understand why the Empress had suddenly become so domineering. This was a god. He can easily destroy Voidless Realm, I can't offend him. If Yi Hua was here he would definitely praise his wife. My woman doesn't need to fear anyone and anything. If they can't defeat me I will call them husband, I will let them experience what deep despair is. If the three of you don't have anything else you can leave Voidless Realm. Hearing that the Empress was going to expel the three of them, Yuan De's heart sunk. She really isn't giving me any face at all. Lin Hong didn't expect that this Dong Huang Baiji would be so arrogant. If not for His Highness I would have started a massacre today. Taking a deep breath, Yi Hua calmed down the anger within his body. Dong Huang Baiji, I have a few things to ask you. Speak. Lin Hong had seen formidable people before, but he had never seen such a formidable woman before. That Madame Ziyuan was very formidable too, but in the end she was still defeated by His Highness and then accepted into his harem. It was just that they had never seen a formidable woman before. If they had seen a formidable woman before, their attitude would definitely not be like this. How did Ji family get destroyed? Lin Hong asked gravely. So the reason why these deities came down is to ask about Ji family. Thinking about it, it is normal. I am only in charge of the north, and I am not very clear about what happened to Ji family. When I arrived at Ji family was already in ruins. Dong Huang Baiji said. Have you seen this woman before? Lin Hong took out a portrait of a woman. Dong Huang Baiji looked at the woman in the portrait. She looks so familiar. Where have I seen this woman before? Where have I seen this woman before? That's right. That's Zishan. Yi Hong's wife. My god, is that Zishan a deity? And Yi Hong is Yi Hua's underling. Dong Huang Baiji's mind was a bit confused, but she mustn't be confused right now because Yi Hua had caused a huge trouble. I have never seen her before. What relationship does the woman in the portrait have with Ji family? Dong Huang Baiji asked. Lin Hong kept the portrait and said faintly, this woman is His Highness's concubine, and the last place that she appeared was at Ji family. Dong Huang Baiji's heart sunk, then said calmly, so that's how it is. Since you don't know, then forget about it. However, I will report everything that you did today to His Highness. After finished speaking, Lin Hong brought his men and disappeared, heading towards Ying family to greet them. After the three of them left, Dong Huang Baiji sat on the throne and went into a daze. After connecting all these things together, everything becomes clear. I have to discuss this matter with Qinya. Your Majesty? Yuan De shouted out. All of you can leave. After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji appeared in the courtyard. What happened? Qinya carried Dong Huang Li and asked concernedly. Dong Huang Baiji signaled the maid to carry her daughter into the house to sleep. Looking at Dong Huang Baiji's expression, Qinya knew that it wasn't a good thing. Afterward, Dong Huang Baiji told Qinya about what happened just now. The deities came because of Ji family's matter? Dong Huang Baiji shook her head and said gravely, "No, to be precise, they came to look for a woman." "Woman? Do you still remember the godly might that you felt at Ji family that day? That is the woman that they are looking for." Qing Ye's gaze was filled with doubt, then asked, "Is it related to Yi Hua?" As expected of the woman that Yi Hua regards highly, to be able to think of my man for everything. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head. This caused Qing Ye to exclaim in admiration. "Furthermore, we know that woman." "No." This time, Qing Ye was even more astonished. "She is Yi Hong's wife, Zishan." "Ah. It's her." Qing Ye stood up in shock. Dong Huang Baiji hurriedly held on to Qing Ye. "Be careful of the child." "That's right, it is Zishan. Furthermore, this Zishan is some king's concubine." Qing Ye slowly sat down, then said with a taut face, "The cigarette ash that we found at Ji family that day?" Chapter 383. A feeling of powerlessness emerged from Qing Ye's heart. Just who is Yi Hua? Why is my feeling towards Yi Hua becoming more and more blurry? Isn't he just the boss of a bar? Wasn't he a cultivator hiding from his enemies? Was Ji family exterminated by Yi Hua? Dong Huang Baiji asked puzzledly. Qing Ye shook her head. This matter is still not easy to judge. The two women fell silent. They felt that their husband was hiding a lot of things from them. They couldn't understand why he was hiding it from them. Was it because he didn't trust him? "I'm your wife. If anything happens, we'll face it together. Why do you have to hide it from me?" Yi Hua was worried that they wouldn't be able to accept his identity, and thus there were some things that Yi Hua didn't say. Of course, there were also some things that Yi Hua felt that there was no need to say. After all, they were all small matters and there was nothing to say. However, to Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji, these small matters were huge matters. In actuality, what women were concerned about was whether or not the man had placed them in his heart. However, Yi Hua didn't know what these women were thinking. After all, he didn't have much experience in dating and thus he directly skipped this part and became a father. However, right now, Yi Hua still didn't know that the gods had already come to look for him. Furthermore, his two wives already knew that he was present at that time. Although he didn't tell the gods that he was present at that time, the two wives were still very unhappy that their husbands were hiding everything from them. Yi Hua stood at the entrance of Leisure Bar and took a look at the Audi A8 that was parked at the side. Right now there isn't even a driver left. Opening up his phone, he took a look at the change in his WeChat. There is only 100 plus RMB left. Yesterday I went to Lai Gu's house to freeload a meal. Today I will go to Wei Chang's house to freeload a meal. As for Qing Yutong who is playing games, I don't care about her anymore. Brother-in-law, wait for me. Qing Yutong immediately rushed out and hugged onto Yi Hua's arm. Yi Hua's arms sunk deep into that soft place. Right now, Qing Yutong doesn't even need to put on makeup when she goes out, because she is much more beautiful than before. "What are you doing out here?" "Going to eat with brother-in-law?" Qing Yutong said with a smile. "Don't you have money?" "Brother-in-law, do you think I have money? Hurry up and bring my sister back or else we'll have to beg for food." Yi Hua sneered, "Even if I starve to death, I won't go there." Qing Yutong's face was filled with disbelief. "You came just in time, you drive," Yi Hua said faintly. Qing Yutong stretched out her delicate hand. "What?" "Brother-in-law, the car needs to be refueled. When I drove it back yesterday it was almost out of gas." Yi Hua raised his hand and slapped onto his sister-in-law's buttocks. "Are you only going to open it and not increase it? I also need to have money to add on, it hurts so much," Qing Yutong said pitifully. When other people spanked their buttocks it was only for the sake of their mood, but when brother-in-law spanked their buttocks, it was completely a real spanking. Yi Hua could only take out his phone and call Didi. Not long after, a Geely drove over, and Yi Hua brought along his sister-in-law to freeload a meal. When the old driver in the front saw the man and woman getting on the car, he was also amazed. This woman was really beautiful. Just looking at her made him have a physiological reaction. "Brother-in-law, we can't go on like this." The old driver almost rear-ended the car. It was actually his sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Looking at how intimate they were, this sister-in-law could not wait to directly stick to him. She even said such words. He was simply speechless. She was playing with her brother-in-law behind her sister's back. Yi Hua said faintly, "Go back to your old profession and earn some money for me." The old driver almost flipped the car. This brother-in-law wants his sister-in-law to sell herself and earn money for him. This is simply too ferocious to the extreme. "Sniff, sniff, sniff, I don't want to do it. How about brother-in-law, you go and do it?" The old driver almost choked to death on his own saliva. This is definitely the weirdest brother-in-law and sister-in-law, selling all kinds of things. Scram. Qing Yutong pouted her mouth. I definitely won't go and become a celebrity. How boring is that? I might as well stay at home and play games to be happy. 20 minutes later, the two finally arrived at Wei Chang's old neighborhood. Might as well let Wei Chang sell the house, at least he can still sleep in the storage room. Yihua muttered. Qing Yutong laughed lightly. Hearing his sister-in-law's laughter, Yihua asked, What are you laughing at? Your life is not as good as your subordinates. Yihua raised his hand and gave a slap, causing Qing Yutong's face to turn red. Most probably she was feeling it, she even had to walk with her legs between her legs. Brother-in-law, did we forget about Yi Zizi? Qing Yutong suddenly remembered Yi Zizi. This child has not finished school yet. Let her directly come over to eat later. The two walked towards Wei Chang's building, and just when they arrived downstairs, they saw Wei Chang and Tang Wei going out of the building. Boss. Wei Chang cried out in surprise. Tang Wei hurriedly greeted Yihua, and Yihua signaled to Tang Wei to forget about it. What are you two going to do? Yihua asked. I was just about to come here to freeload a meal, and you two are going out right now. Wei Chang said respectfully, Boss, we were just about to go to the Green and Red brothers' house. Yi Hong is treating us today. Yihua's brows wrinkled. To actually not inform the Supreme Overlord that you are treating us. Do you want to die? If Yi Hong has the guts to go and treat you, you are a Supreme Overlord, would you even care about a meal like this? However, the current Yihua indeed cared about it very much. Wherever there is food to eat, I will freeload there, and I still have to maintain the demeanor of a Supreme Overlord. However, upon thinking about Little Red, Yihua thought about that Zishan. I wonder how their situation is. I forgot about this matter. Calculating the time, it should be around 2 months, right? Has this Little Red gotten Zishan yet? If she didn't, Yihua stood there and waited for Wei Chang to invite him. Could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to take the initiative to go? Wei Chang felt that his honor wanted to say something, so he lowered his head and listened to his honor. Seems like Zhu Tian is still the brains of the team. Boss, how about we go together? Tang Wei, who was at the side, said respectfully. Yihua said reluctantly, I, the Supreme Overlord, will go and take a look then. Qing Yutong wanted to laugh, but she didn't dare to. Brother-in-law really wants everything. He clearly wants to freeload a meal, but he is too embarrassed to ask for it. Wei Chang's current car was a Qian, which was a bit more high-end than Yihua's A8. Once again, Qing Yutong's words were verified. Tang Wei was driving, Wei Chang was sitting at the front passenger seat, and Yihua and Qing Yutong were sitting at the back. Wei Chang turned his head around and asked, Your Honor, is there a reason why you came here today? I went to visit Lai Gu yesterday, so I came here today to see how you are doing. Yihua said indifferently. Wei Chang immediately felt overwhelmed by the favor. Your Honor is truly considerate towards subordinates. That is natural. Qing Yutong really wanted to expose brother-in-law's true colors. He just ran out to freeload a meal because he has no food to eat. That's right, how are Yi Hong and Zishan getting along? Yihua asked. Wei Chang paused for a moment, then said, The relationship between the two is much better than before, just that they have yet to reach his honor's request. Zishan isn't pregnant yet? She isn't. Chapter 384. The heart of Tang Wei, who was driving, also sunk. Even Wei Chang felt that his honor's words had a hidden meaning. Is his honor talking about me? Wei Chang said with a smile, Your Honor, the gap between Yi Hong and Zishan's status is too big, and they need to get used to each other. Besides, isn't there still half a month left? Who knows, maybe I'm pregnant. Not necessarily. If that Zishan is still the same as before, then let's just kill her. Yihua said faintly. I hate the feeling of gods acting high and mighty the most. Even I, the Supreme Overlord, do not act so pretentiously. Of course Wei Chang wouldn't object. Yes. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, also didn't say anything, because Qing Yutong knew that even if she said anything it would be useless. If Qingyu was here she would definitely stop him. This was also the difference between the two sisters. They each had their own unique characteristics. Half an hour later, they finally arrived at the villa where the Green and Red brothers lived. Wei Chang got off the car and opened the door respectfully. Yihua and Qing Yutong looked at the villa in front of them and sighed with emotion. Qing Yutong pulled her brother-in-law, seemingly saying, Look at your little brother's little brother. He is living even more freely than you. Let's go. Yihua said faintly. No matter how carefree he is still my subordinate, and I can take back everything that I have bestowed upon him. As Wei Chang and Tang Wei led the way, Tang Wei pressed the doorbell. Very quickly the door was opened and the person who opened the door was Zishan. Zishan could be seen wearing a white apron and seemed to be cooking. When Zishan opened the door, there was a trace of a smile on her face. However, when Zishan saw Yihua who was outside, she immediately retracted that trace of smile, as if she had seen a ghost. Yihua saw this action of hers. Seems like in just a month's time, there is indeed some change, but it is not a big change. In actuality, Zishan's change in this 1 month was quite big. In the past she was hostile towards everyone. But now at the very least she was no longer hostile towards Wei Chang and Tang Wei. At the very least, when Zishan opened the door just now, she revealed a slight smile. From this, it could be seen that Zishan was very happy. At this time, the Green and Red brothers hurriedly came out of the Green and Red brothers and greeted respectfully, "Your Honor." "Go in," Yihua said faintly. He was very dissatisfied with Zishan's attitude. Yihong seemed to have sensed it as well. This shouldn't be the case. Zishan's attitude towards me has clearly changed during this period of time. In the past he was always cold and sarcastic. Now he would smile from time to time and speak more often. The most obvious thing was that Zishan had started learning how to cook. Furthermore, he was exceptionally meticulous. When he was cooking, he referred to the teachings on the internet and was extremely precise in how many grams of sugar and how many grams of salt to add. The food that Zishan made was naturally very delicious. At the very least, Yihong was able to truly understand Zishan's intentions. Although there was no skin-to-skin contact, Yihong was already very satisfied with this kind of life. Yihong had almost forgotten about the deadline of 2 months. And today, His Honor's sudden arrival shattered Yihong's beautiful dream, causing Yihong to think of the 2-month promise. Yihong wasn't the only one who thought of this, Zishan had also thought of it. I feel that His Honor came over this time for this matter. But none of you could have imagined it. However, when he saw Zishan's attitude, he seemed to have changed his mind. Walking into the villa, Yihua sat on the sofa, while Qing Yutong sat at the side and peeled oranges for her brother-in-law. However, the others stood to the side, not daring to do anything. "Why are you all standing here? Those who need to cook, go cook," Yihua said faintly. "I only ate instant noodles for lunch and I am a bit hungry. If I don't train my fleshly body, I won't be able to do anything." Zishan went to the kitchen and Tang Wei followed her to help. "Brother-in-law here." Qing Yutong peeled an orange and passed it to Yihua. Yihua took over the cup and said faintly, "Everyone sit." "Thank you, Your Honor." Big Brother Green was also worried for little brother. Today when His Honor comes up he will definitely ask about it. Wei Chang felt helpless. "This orange is rather sweet," Yihua couldn't help but say. Qing Yutong, on the other hand, was rather tactful as she laughed. "Brother-in-law, let me peel another one for you." After pausing for a moment, Yihua asked faintly, "Yihong, how have you been recently?" Yihong suddenly stood up, appearing to be very nervous. "Your Honor, I have been doing well recently." Zishan, who was in the kitchen, turned her head around and looked at Yihong, feeling worried in her heart. Tang Wei, who was at the side, asked in a low voice, "Zishan, did you and Yihong do that?" Hearing that, Zishan's face turned slightly red, then shook her head. "Zishan, there is still some time left, you two better hurry up," Tang Wei reminded Zishan. "In the beginning I felt that Yihong and Zishan weren't compatible, but after getting to know each other, they were actually quite good, the two of them complemented each other." Zishan remained silent. "Originally, I thought that I would be able to spend the last moments of my life like this, but as time passes I feel more and more reluctant to part with Yihong. Even Zishan can't say what she is reluctant to part with. Is it Yihong? Perhaps." After Yihua, who was sitting on the sofa, heard what Zishan said, he nodded his head, then asked, "Have you two slept with each other yet?" Yihong's heart sunk. As expected, it still came. "Your Honor, not yet." Yihong didn't dare to lie to Yihua. "Is she not willing?" Yihong hurriedly explained to Zishan, "Your Honor, you misunderstood, it is my problem. Young people can't do it just because of this? Go and buy some medicine to eat." Yihua shook his head. "This person's physique is not good enough." "Your Honor has misunderstood, I am the one who is not prepared." Yihua's gaze turned cold. "It is you who is not willing. It is she who is not willing. It is I who is not willing." Zishan, who was in the kitchen, suddenly walked out and shouted out. After hearing that, Yihong's expression changed, then explained, "Your Honor, it is subordinate who is not willing, it has nothing to do with Zishan." Qing Yutong finally understood what was going on. In actuality, the two of them liked each other, and it was just that Zishan couldn't put down her face. Yi Hua said gravely, "Since the two of you are not willing, let's have our last meal today." Yi Hong was frightened and she immediately knelt in front of Yi Hua. "Your Honor, I am willing to bear any responsibility for Zishan." Yi Hua took the orange from his sister-in-law's hand. "Don't say anything now, let's eat first." "Your Honor," Wei Chang shouted out gravely, "Yi Hong." He warned Yi Hong not to anger his honor anymore. Yi Hong took a look at Zishan and discovered that Zishan's eyes were red. "What are you still standing there for? Quickly go and cook." Yi Hua looked at Zishan who was standing there motionlessly and shouted out gravely, "Why is this woman so foolish? Doesn't she know how to please me? She is still resisting even now. These women nowadays, it is even harder for them to lower their heads than to reach the heavens." Wei Chang took a look at Tang Wei and the latter pulled Zishan into the kitchen. However, right now, Zishan was no longer in the mood to cook. Tang Wei was able to understand Zishan's feelings, and she began to cook herself. Just now, when Zishan saw Yi Hong pleading for her and kneeling down, Zishan felt her heart ache. "This is a feeling that I have never felt before. And when he said that today is his last meal, he should be trying to kill me, right?" Looking at Yi Hong who was sitting there not saying a word, Zishan suddenly felt a bit reluctant to die. This was not because she was afraid of death, but rather she was reluctant to part with Yi Hong. The scene of Yi Hong taking revenge for her couldn't help but appear in Zishan's mind, and her heart immediately began to ache faintly. Yi Hua had successfully instigated a deity to rebel against him. To be more precise, it was Yi Hong who moved a deity with her sincerity. Chapter 385. Brother-in-law, it's almost time to eat. I'll fill my stomach first. Wei Chang and the others were a little puzzled. Is his honor hungry? Yi Hua knew that he spoke too quickly and said in a deep voice, "Recently I like fruits." So that's how it was. Qing Yutong smiled but did not say anything. While holding onto the apple, she carefully peeled it. Half an hour later, the meal was finally ready, and the sky outside gradually darkened. "Your Honor, can we start eating now?" Tang Wei walked over and asked respectfully. Yi Hua stood up. "Open it." Qing Yutong also joined the team that carried the dishes. F***ck, it has been a long time since I have seen such a sumptuous dinner. Ever since they left, my life seems to have returned to how it was in the past, and I feel very uncomfortable. The three women sat on one side, the three men sat on the other side, and Yi Hua sat on the main seat. "Let's eat, what are you still in a daze for?" Yi Hua said faintly, then took the initiative to pick up the chopsticks and have a taste. "Feels pretty good. Life with a woman is so comfortable." Qing Yutong was also not courteous. After following her brother-in-law for the past few days, she was almost starving to death. Qing Yutong could disregard her image and eat whatever she wanted, but Yi Hua couldn't. He had to follow his honor's eating method. What does his honor's eating method mean? In the end, when he saw his sister-in-law wolfing down the food, he glared fiercely at her. "I haven't even started eating yet and you have already finished a bowl." However, Yi Hong and Zishan who were sitting on the dining table did not have much of an appetite. Their bowl of rice had almost turned into porridge. Yi Hua saw this but he didn't say anything. It was their own choice. However, for Wei Chang and Tang Wei, this was the most boring meal they had ever eaten. It should be said that when I am eating together with his honor, I am unable to let go of myself. Even the sound of chewing has to be suppressed, fearing that it will affect his honor's appetite. Half an hour later, this boring meal finally ended. Other than Yi Hua and Qing Yutong, everyone else felt incomparably stifled. Qing Yutong didn't have that kind of feeling that other people had. Of course, this was all thanks to Qingya. If not, how could Qing Yutong have the title of sister-in-law? Qing Yutong's backer was not just an ordinary person. After the meal, Yi Hua sat on the sofa and ate fruits, while the girls were washing the dishes in the kitchen. Bang! The sound of plates breaking rang out from the kitchen. Yi Hua turned his head around and took a look, and Zishan was standing there in a daze. Tang Wei said, "Zishan, let me do it, you go out and rest." "No need." Qing Yutong who was at the side let out a breath. Is face really that important? Big sister is also like this. Even now, she is still unable to put down her face. Seems like only by being shameless can one be unparalleled under the heavens just like me, haha. 10 minutes later, the bowl was finally washed, which meant that something bad had happened. It seemed like Zishan didn't want to face this and she actually picked up a mop to clean the floor. It was as if he wanted to clean the house even if he had to die. Of course, Perhaps he was stalling for time and wanted to stay a little longer. Qing Yutong and Tang Wei seemed to have sensed it and looked at Yi Hua, who was sitting on the sofa, but did not say anything. 1 hour later, Zishan finally finished cleaning the bathroom and said lightly, "I'm going to take a bath." Yi Hua didn't stop them. When Zishan reappeared, she was wearing the same set of clothes that she was wearing when she first came here. "I'll just go back to how I came here." Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then looked at Zishan, who was standing in front of him. Of course, there was also Yi Hong, who had a taut expression on her face, and Big Brother Green, who was standing at the side with his brows tightly wrinkled. "Yi Hong, do you still remember what I said back then?" Yi Hua said. Yi Hong lowered her head and said, "I remember." "Repeat what I said one more time." Yi Hong paused, and even his fingers were trembling. He wanted to say something, but he was unable to say anything. However, Zishan said faintly, "If I am not able to get pregnant within 2 months, Yi Hong will personally kill me." Yi Hua nodded his head. "Although it hasn't been 2 months yet, it seems like the two of you don't want to get pregnant then?" Yi Hua could be seen taking out a sword that was emitting a faint golden light, and on the sword, there was a vivid and lifelike golden dragon engraved on the sword. Yi Hua casually threw the heaven-defying weapon onto the coffee table. "This is the Dragon Rebel Sword, Yi Hong, do it." This situation caused Wei Chang to be confused. Is his honor serious, or is he just scaring us? Qing Yutong and Tang Wei also became nervous. Zishan looked at the Dragon Rebel Sword on the coffee table and seemed to have accepted her fate. Today, between Zishan and Yi Hong, one of them will naturally die. If the ending is like this, then I will just let myself receive the punishment that I deserve. Yi Hong, do it. With trembling hands, Yi Hong picked up the Dragon Rebel Sword from the tea table, looked at Zishan, and then knelt on the ground with a plop. "Your Honor, I am willing to receive punishment in Zishan's place." Right when Yi Hua was about to say something, Wei Chang's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly sent a private message to his honor. "Your Honor, Death Mage has sent news over. 3 deities have gone to Ying family, and it seems like they are looking for Zishan." Hearing that, Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. Seems like this deity is finally making a move. And here I thought that the deity was an idiot. Wei Chang, telling family's people to tell them that the person is here. Yes. Letting out a breath, Yi Hua looked at Yi Hong, who was kneeling down, and said faintly, "Yi Hong, do you think that she will care about you when you are like this? This subordinate is willing to do this." Yi Hong said in a low voice. "As long as his honor is willing to spare Zishan's life, I am willing to do anything." Yi Hua nodded his head, seemingly agreeing with what Yi Hong said. Soon after, Yi Hua said, "Yi Hong, I can agree to your request, and I can even remove the restriction between the two of you." It was too sudden. Yi Hong had never expected this. She was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. Zishan didn't expect that Yi Hua would let her off. "You two are still too young." Yi Hua had just changed his mind. "Yi Hong, are you willing to use all of your strength to exchange for her freedom?" Yi Hua asked. This kind of choice was very difficult for a person to make. Strength, this was a world where strength was respected. Without strength, Yi Hong would still be that little hooligan from before. With strength, Yi Hong would be able to stand above a lot of people. However, to use all of one's strength to exchange for the freedom of a woman who didn't like them, it seemed like a lot of people already had their own answer. However, Yi Hong was still Yi Hong. He didn't become arrogant just because he had powerful strength. "Your Honor, I am willing." "Yi Hong, you have to think this through clearly. There is a possibility that she will return to Ying family, and you will become nothing." Yi Hua reminded once again. "Your Honor, I have already made up my mind. Thank you, Your Honor, for taking care of me during this period of time. I have failed to live up to Your Honor's expectations." Big Brother Green sighed. How many men are willing to give up everything for a woman? I thought that all of those women were fake, but I didn't expect that my little brother was the same as well. Yi Hua said gravely, "All right." Yi Hua stretched out his hand and immediately sucked out Yi Hong's ability. Black mist drilled out from Yi Hong's eyes, ears, nose and mouth, causing Yi Hong to howl out in pain. At this moment, only then did Zishan come back to her senses and shouted out miserably, "No!" Chapter 386. However, Zishan was not able to feel any bit of happiness from freedom. Seeing how much pain Yi Hong was in, what kind of freedom would she want? Yi Hong. Zishan could be seen running towards Yi Hong and hugging onto Yi Hong. Zishan's heart was aching faintly. Yi Hong was just a bit exhausted, but seeing that the person she liked was fine, Yi Hong was very satisfied. With a smile on her face she said, Zishan, you are finally free. Why are you so stupid? Zishan raised her fist and lightly punched at Yi Chen, just like a little girlfriend who was acting coquettishly. Yi Hong smiled foolishly and said, Big brother often says that I'm stupid. After finished speaking, Yi Hong faced Yi Hua and shouted out respectfully, Your Honor, thank you. No need because it's all up to you now. These words caused Yi Hong and Zishan to be startled. Suddenly, 3 powerful auras appeared, and this caused Zishan's beautiful face to change. His Highness men had arrived. Zishan, it seems like someone has come to bring you home. Yi Hua said calmly. This group of people came quite quickly. Yi Hong slowly stood up. Her physical strength had also recovered quite a bit. Yi Hong smiled and said, Zishan, then I will send you back. Big Brother Green really wanted to slap Big Brother Green. The other person was obviously going to stay behind for you and you still want him to leave? Is there something wrong with your brain? Then let's go out and say our goodbyes. Don't disturb my mood of watching TV. Yi Hua said calmly. He was very curious if Zishan would leave or not. Yi Hong had indeed thought that Zishan would leave, so she wanted to send Zishan off. Let's go. Yi Hong's tone was still filled with reluctance, but what else could she do? His honor was able to keep her body, but he was unable to keep her heart. Yi Hong held Zishan's hand and walked out of the villa. After the two of them left, Qing Yutong shook her head. What a fool. Everyone couldn't help but nod their heads. Even Yi Hua felt that Yi Hong was foolish enough to not understand a woman's heart. This was something that he had to learn from the main body. However, the dragon rebel sword, which had been set aside, seemed to be very embarrassed and ignored. The two walked out of the villa and happened to run into Lin Hong and the other two. Zishan didn't want to cause trouble in front of her house, so she disappeared with Yi Hong. Lin Hong and the other two were slightly taken aback and followed. However, their gazes were filled with astonishment because just now, that man seemed to be holding on to Madame Ziyuan's hand. Zishan had chosen an open plane. Right now, Yi Hong was feeling a little dizzy. He who does not have the strength to fly at such a high speed would not be able to withstand it, and his nose was already bleeding. Seeing that Yi Hong's nose was bleeding, Zishan used her sleeves to wipe it off. Right now it was the posture of a woman hugging a man. Yi Hong, who was lying in Zishan's embrace, opened her eyes in a daze, then looked at Zishan's chest and muttered, So big, so round. Zishan, if this had happened more than a month ago, Yi Hong would have no impression of him at all. Perhaps he would have really left just like that. Yi Hong seemed to have woken up, and when she saw that she was actually lying in Zishan's embrace, she immediately left Zishan's embrace and explained, I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. That's right, Yi Hong had always been very polite and courteous to Zishan. However, he was also very concerned about Zishan. It's just that his EQ is a little low. This is giving Zishan a headache. Forget it. Zishan said indifferently. Yi Hong heaved a sigh of relief. This person was about to leave. She couldn't leave a bad impression. Zishan, will you return? Yi Hong asked weakly. Zishan really wanted to learn from Big Brother Green and slapped the back of Yi Hong's head. Yi Hong actually dared to ask such a stupid question. Without waiting for Zishan to reply, Lin Hong and the other two rushed to the scene, then knelt down on one knee and shouted out, Subordinates Lin Hong, San Chi and Lili, greet Madame Ziyuan. Yi Hong looked at the 3 people in front of her. Are these the people who are on Zishan's side? My mood is very disappointed. Stand up. Right now Zishan was emitting out a noble aura, as if she had turned into a high and mighty deity. This caused Yi Hong to be unable to differentiate which one was the real Zishan. Lin Hong and the other two stood up and stared at Yi Hong. San Chi shouted out sternly, Audacious. Madame Ziyuan is not someone a lowly person like you can touch. Right now, Yi Hong was still holding onto Zishan's small hand. Hearing that San Chi had shouted out for her to stop, Yi Hong let out a sigh and let go of Zishan. This wasn't because she was scared by San Chi, rather she was reminded by San Chi that it was time for her to let go of Zishan's hand. Although it hasn't been 2 months, but every single day was much happier than before. Eating the food that Zishan cooked, watching Zishan's figure that was busy in the kitchen, was a kind of happiness. This made Yi Hong realize what love was. It was very sweet but also very sour. Lin Hong said respectfully, Madame Ziyuan, His Highness is summoning you back. Zishan took a deep breath. It seemed like she had made some kind of decision. The kind of life that she had in the past was not what she wanted. Call me Zishan. Lin Hong and the other two were slightly startled, not understanding what Madame Ziyuan meant. Tell Prince Ho that I won't go back. Zishan's following words made Lin Hong and the other two dumbfounded. Yihong was shocked. Her mouth was agape in disbelief. Could it be that she was deaf? Just a moment ago, Zishan said that she wasn't going back. Lin Hong reacted and squeezed out a smile. Madam Ziyuan, please don't make things difficult for me. Today is Prince Ho's birthday. What does his birthday celebration have to do with me? He is my husband. Zishan held onto Yihong's hand and encouraged Yihong. At the same time, Zishan was also expressing her stance. Even a fool would be able to see through such an attitude, let alone Yihong. Of course she would be able to understand. Not only did Zishan not return, she even admitted her identity. Heavens! Happiness was too sudden. This time he really had a wife. Lin Hong observed Madame Ziyuan and muttered, Madam, did you fall under some kind of demonic technique? Madam, you don't have to worry, Prince Ho will naturally undo these restraints. Zishan snorted coldly, demonic technique? Zishan could be seen hugging onto Yihong's waist, then slightly tiptoed and kissed Yihong. Yihong's mind was completely blank. Compared to the first time they kissed, the kiss this time was exceptionally sweet. As a man, Yihong naturally wouldn't let Zishan bear the pressure alone. Taking the initiative, Yihong hugged onto Zishan's waist with both of her hands and enjoyed Zishan's cherry lips. In such a situation, Lin Hong and the other two completely treated Lin Hong and the other two as air. They foolishly watched as their madam kissed a lowly person. After a long while, the two of them gradually separated from each other, and a long silver line was actually pulled out from each other's lips. Zishan, are you really not going to leave? Yihong couldn't help but want to confirm. Zishan revealed out a very natural smile, then looked at Yihong and said, I'm not leaving. If I leave, who will cook for you? That's great. Yihong was excited like a child as he hugged onto Zishan and spun around. If Yihong didn't put in any effort, Zishan wouldn't have fallen in love with him. Chapter 387. Of course there was another possibility, and that was, fortune favors fools. This was something that could not be solved. Up until now, within Yi Hua's entire subordinate group, there were only 3 people who had good luck. The first one was Death Mage. With his skeleton body he was able to flirt with a big sister. Furthermore, there was even a language barrier. Yi Hua didn't even understand how Death Mage managed to flirt with Sun Fang. Yi Hua imagined that if he were to reveal his true body in front of Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, the 2 women would definitely roll their eyes and faint. The second is Zhu Tian. His luck is also very good, because he has a woman that everyone wants to bully, Dongfang Yuer. After all, with Dongfang Yuaner's looks, coupled with her delicate demeanor, she was truly a beauty. However, only Absolute Heaven could bully her. Hence, it could be said that Absolute Heaven was also a lucky person. The third lucky person would naturally be Yihong. The difference in status between him and Zishan was obvious. Although Zishan was being restricted by Yi Hua, Zishan wasn't afraid in the slightest. At most she would just die. However, under Yihong's care and consideration, Zishan seemed to have gradually fallen for Yihong. In actuality, ever since that day when Zishan died, Zishan had begun to slowly fall for Yihong. Because this was the first time she had seen a man go crazy for her. That kind of feeling was something that she had never experienced before. Yihong had used her sincerity to move Zishan, while Absolute Heaven and Death Mage had used brute force to subdue Zishan. There was a difference between the two. Let's talk about the unluckiest. Of course, it was the Supreme Overlord Yi Hua. The reason why Yi Hua was unlucky was because his luck was too good, to have met 2 women that he couldn't afford to offend. Of course Yi Hua liked the 2 of them. If not, why would he pamper them so much? Even if they were separated right now, wasn't this another kind of pampering? However, looking at the way things were going, Yi Hua planned to create the most compassionate team. Yi, you're thinking too much. Lin Hong's eyes were filled with killing intent as he shouted, Madame Ziyuan, please pay attention to your manners. You are smearing Marquis Wangye's reputation. Yihong placed Zishan down. Now that Zishan wasn't leaving, Yihong naturally wouldn't let her go. All of you listen to me, Zishan isn't leaving anymore, all of you quickly go back to sleep. Yihong shouted. Sanchi shouted angrily, where did this ant come from? To actually speak such arrogant words and even take advantage of Madame Ziyuan? I think that you are tired of living. Zishan pulled Yihong behind her. After all, Yihong did not have any strength right now, and they would be able to kill Yihong with just a single strand of her hair. Go back and tell Lord Ho that our fate has come to an end. Tell him to take care of himself. Lin Hong asked gravely, Madame Ziyuan. You have to think carefully, the consequences of what you are doing right now is very serious, if this matter were to reach Marquis Wang Ye's ears. Lin Hong, you don't need to explain, I know, but I also want to give Prince a word of advice, there is always someone better out there, don't act recklessly. Right now, Zishan also seemed to have the intention of hugging onto Yihua's thigh. With Yihua here, there is no need for us to be afraid of any marquis or princess. Even if someone from the royal family comes, there is no need for us to be afraid. Lin Hong sighed, he turned his palm and a huge black blade appeared in his hand, while Sanchi had a long whip in her hand, and Lili had a pair of sharp claws in his hand. These three weapons were all ancient godly equipment. Prince Ho has ordered me to bring Madame Ziyuan back. Pardon me for offending you. Go. After finished speaking, Lin Hong leaped high into the air, and the huge blade slashed towards Zishan. A huge godly might was emitting out from the blade, and Zishan's beautiful hair fluttered wildly as she slightly raised her head. A ribbon drilled out from Zishan's sleeve and emitted out a greenish-white-colored glazed light, looking very beautiful in the night sky. Bang! The two actually let out a metallic clashing sound, and a huge shockwave exploded out from the center of Yihong's heart. The shockwave was deafening. Although Yihong, who had turned into an ordinary person, was protected by Zishan, blood was already flowing out from his ears and his eyes were bloodshot. This kind of pressure was not something that an ordinary person could experience. Sanchi and Li, who were at the back, immediately joined the battle, and Zishan did not dare to be careless. These three could be considered as Lord Ho's capable subordinates, and their battle strength was not ordinary. They were still able to fight one-on-one, but to fight one against three they would not be able to handle it. Yihong also knew that he was a burden, so he quickly ran away. Don't give Zishan any trouble or go back and call Big Brother over. Looking at Yihong, who was running away, Lin Hong shouted out to Sanchi, capture that man. Yes. Seeing that Sanchi was going to capture Yihong, Zishan hurriedly went to stop Sanchi. However, Li directly intercepted Sanchi, and with Lin Hong restraining Sanchi, Zishan could only watch as Sanchi captured Yihong. With a hostage in their hands, Lin Hong and Li both stopped. Let him go. Looking at Sanchi, who was strangling Yihong's neck, Zishan's beautiful eyes became bloodshot, and the pressure that Zishan released from her body gradually rose. Lin Hong said faintly, I can let him go, but you have to go back with us and report to us. Alright, I'll go back with you all. Zishan agreed without even thinking. No, don't. With Sanchi strangling Yihong's neck, it was very hard for Yihong to even speak. Sanchi smiled in disdain, then slightly increased the strength of its grip. A lowly ant dares to cling onto a dragon. I dare you to touch him again. A vicious aura burst out from Zishan's body, and a blood net actually appeared behind Zishan. Lin Hong's heart sunk as he hurriedly said, in order to prevent Madame from escaping, subordinate has to use a bit of means. Lin Hong stretched out his palm and a red rope appeared on his palm. Lin Hong then threw the red rope towards Zishan. The red rope was emitting out a faint light, seems like it is also an ancient godly item. In an instant, Zishan was bound by the red rope. Seeing that Zishan was bound by Zishan, the huge blade in Lin Hong's hand slashed out an afterimage. Puchi. The huge blade pierced into Zishan's back, and the tip of the blade was exposed at Zishan's chest area. Yihong lowered his head and looked at the tip of the blade on his chest area, then spat out a mouthful of blood. Sanchi and Li's expressions were filled with mockery. A lowly person dares to say such words, he is truly reckless. Zishan was completely stupefied. I watched as they killed Yihong and I was so stupid that I thought that they would let Yihong go, but they didn't plan to let me go at all. Lin Hong used the huge blade in his hand to raise Yihong's body up high, and the blood on Yihong's body seemed to be like a faucet that was turned on, flowing all the way down. After raising Yihong in front of Zishan, Lin Hong said gravely, Madame Ziyuan, your end won't be any worse than his. To actually dare to make a cuckold of Prince Ho. In this world there is only one woman who dares to do such a thing. Yihong's eyes were almost unable to open. Looking at Zishan who was in front of him, Yihong smiled and comforted Zishan. Zishan, don't worry, my skin is thick, I won't die. However, right after Zishan spoke, blood began flowing out from her mouth non-stop. Zishan was unable to bear it anymore, and 2 streams of tears flowed down from her eyes. Yihong, don't talk anymore. Chapter 388. I know what you mean. Zishan's tears were like a broken dam. In her entire life, Zishan had never shed so many tears before, and today she actually shed tears for an ordinary person. Yi Hong laughed foolishly. About that? I hid my money behind your dressing table. Originally, I wanted to save it for your birthday, but it seems like I won't be able to use it anymore. However, even if I won't be able to use it, you still have to keep it for yourself. In the past, Big Brother often cheated money from me, although I know that it was for my own good. Isn't my joke funny? Let's change it to another joke then. Yi Hong, don't say any more. Along with the huge blade in Lin Hong's hand trembling, Yi Hong spurted out a mouthful of blood and powerlessly looked at Zishan. He didn't even have the strength to tell a joke to make Zishan happy. Lin Hong said gravely, Madame Ziyuan, Prince Ho will definitely be very angry. After finished speaking, Lin Hong swung the huge blade in his hand, and Yi Hong's body fiercely smashed onto the ground, smashing out a dent. As an ordinary person, how could Yi Hong possibly withstand such power? Yi Hong, who was deeply embedded into the ground, no longer had any trace of life. He opened his eyes, and his eyes were filled with reluctance. However, there was still a trace of a smile on the corner of his mouth. He thought that with this kind of action, Zishan wouldn't feel so sad anymore. Zishan looked at Yi Hong, who was not far away from her. Yi Hong's tears had already stopped flowing, and her beautiful face seemed exceptionally calm. However, raging flames of anger were burning deep within her beautiful eyes. Lin Hong, not only will Ho Xuelin be angry, I will be very angry as well. Zishan slowly turned her head around and stared at Lin Hong with her beautiful eyes. She emitted out a cold aura, giving off a feeling that there was nothing left to live for. Lin Hong said with a smile, Madame Ziyuan, I know that you are very angry, but this spirit-binding rope is not a toy. Zishan laughed lightly. Let's give it a try then. In an instant, dense killing intent emitted out from Zishan's beautiful face. The killing intent was like a raging wave, surging and surging, just like tens of thousands of ferocious horses charging forward at the same time. Mixed within the killing intent was her longing for Yi Hong. Without Yi Hong's unique care, what meaning would there be? Boom boom boom. Bursts of thunder rang out in the sky, causing one's ears to ring. The spiritual energy in the world gathered towards Zishan, forming a vortex. The air seemed as if it was going to boil, and Zishan was like a dazzling sun that was emitting out the spiritual energy in the world. A huge blood net appeared behind Zishan once again. The blood net emitted a ghostly aura, and the form of the blood net was constantly changing. This caused Lin Hong and the other two to be unable to help but take a step back. This Madame Ziyuan actually managed to make a breakthrough amidst her grief. Let's go. As expected, Lin Hong gave the order. Zishan, who had just broken through, was killing them like killing chickens. Zishan shouted, You want to leave? Leave your life here. Under Zishan's powerful pressure, the spirit-binding rope shook violently and instantly turned into specks of starlight. As for the blood net behind Zishan, it actually materialized. With a ghostly wail and wolf howl, it attacked the three of them. San Chi and Lili looked at each other, their eyes showing determination. Brother Lin. Brother Lin, Lili can't follow you anymore. San Chi and Lili knew that if they didn't make a sacrifice, the three of them wouldn't be able to leave. Lin Hong turned his head to look at his subordinates that had always followed him, but now was not the time to be pretentious. Your vengeance, Marquis Wang Yi will naturally take revenge. The two of them smiled and looked at the incoming blood net. Dark Wolf Fist. Heaven-sealing demon. Li Li and San Chi used their strongest technique at the same time. Green and golden radiance flickered in the air. The radiance was dazzling and beautiful, and the radiance brought along a huge destructive power as they attacked towards the blood net. However, when the radiance came into contact with the blood net, it was actually devoured alive. However, the radiance was only able to resist for 1 second. Although the radiance was only able to resist for 1 second, it was enough for Lin Hong to return to Heaven's mansion and report what happened today. The two of them turned their heads around and took a look, then let out a sigh of relief. Brother Lin has finally returned. San Chi and Lili looked at the conversation between the two of them and smiled, then bumped fists together. In our next life we will still be good brothers. Good brothers. There were no living beings within the blood net. In an instant, San Chi and Lili were devoured, not even a bit of them remained. The blood net in the air gradually disappeared as well. Zishan coughed out a mouthful of blood. The huge burden on Zishan's body caused Zishan to feel indescribable pain. However, compared to Yi Hong's pain, Zishan's pain was nothing. Dragging her heavy body, Zishan arrived in front of Yi Hong. Right now, only by rushing back can Yi-Hong be saved. After all, even I managed to survive last time, let alone Yi-Hong. While carrying on to Yi-Hong, Zishan disappeared from the scene. Within the villa's living room, Yi-Hua was eating the grapes that his sister-in-law peeled. I feel that the grapes taste pretty good. This sister-in-law of mine can be developed into a subordinate. Your Honor, aren't you going to go and take a look? Wei Chang asked carefully. Yi-Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then said indifferently, this Zishan shouldn't be leaving. Let the two of them go out and strengthen their relationship. After all, there are 3 antagonists. But Your Honor, didn't you just take back Yi-Hong's strength? Wei Chang asked puzzledly. Yi-Hua shook his head. Wei Chang, why are you so straightforward? Didn't you see that Tang Wei who is beside you is also looking at me with a gaze of disdain? It is precisely because she lost her strength that the things that she does are even more magnificent. Wei Chang had an I understand look on his face, but in actuality he was thinking, does this matter? It was indeed shocking to the point that I almost died. Zishan could be seen returning to the villa while carrying on to Yi-Hong who had lost her life. Right after opening the door, Zishan collapsed. That blood net used up all of Zishan's spiritual energy. Big Brother Green hurriedly ran over, and when he saw Zishan and his little brother's state, he asked anxiously, what happened to you too? Save Yi-Hong. Zishan shouted out weakly. Yi-Hua stood up and walked over. Taking a look at Yi-Hong, Yi-Hua's brows wrinkled tightly. What happened? It's all my fault, please save him, I'll listen to you in the future. I don't dare to disrespect you, Your Honor. After finished speaking, Zishan kneeled in front of Yi-Hua. I'm asking you what is going on. Yi-Hua shouted out coldly. My underling's underling was killed, isn't this the same as slapping my face? I thought that Zishan would be able to protect Yi-Hong, but I didn't expect that Zishan would actually die. Zishan told Yi-Hua about the entire process, and this caused Yi-Hua to be very unhappy. Your Honor, let me exterminate them. After all, Yi-Hong is one of my people. Wei Chang was the first to ask for permission. These gods had really lived for a long time. Why don't you take a look at who you're working for? Tang Wei said respectfully, Your Honor, I am willing to go together with Wei Chang. Your Honor, I also want to go and take revenge. Big Brother Green said with red eyes. Yi-Hua took a deep breath, then looked at Zishan and said, What about you? Zishan slowly raised her head, her beautiful eyes were ice cold, and she said in an awe-inspiring tone, Your Honor. I do. Good. Zishan, I will give you this chance, I will let you take revenge for Yi-Hong. This is a blood tank, when you fill up this blood tank I will be able to revive Yi-Hong. However, if you are unable to do so, you should know the consequences. Yi-Hua stretched out a white container. Qin Yutong looked at the white container, and when she saw that the white container looked like a bottle that contained red wine, Qin Yutong took a look at the dining table and sure enough, the white container disappeared. Chapter 389. Kill Deities. The more you kill, the more you will be able to gather. Yi-Hua made a grabbing motion with his palm and grabbed onto the dragon rebel sword that was lying at the side, then tossed it over to Zishan. Then he said, Wei Chang, help treat her. Yes. A black fog came out from Wei Chang's palm. Zishan knew that this was not an ordinary thing. She took a deep breath and slowly closed her beautiful eyes. After a while, Zishan suddenly opened her eyes. Her pupils were incomparably pitch black. She could feel the power in her body, and she felt as if she could split apart the entire heavenly palace. Go quickly and return quickly. Yi-Hua said faintly. Yes. After finished speaking, Zishan disappeared from the villa. After Zishan left, Yi-Hua said towards Wei Chang, Save him, he looks really uncomfortable. All right, Your Honor. Wei Chang smiled. Wei Chang indeed looked awkward. He threw out another ball of black mist. After Yi-Hong, who was lying on the ground, breathed it in, her face gradually turned rosy. In less than a minute, he immediately opened his eyes and asked, Where did Zishan go? Big Brother Green slapped onto the ground. Why aren't you thanking His Honor for saving you, fool? Yi-Hong hurriedly kowtowed and thanked His Honor. His Honor is too good to me. Not only did His Honor give me strength, His Honor even saved me and even gave me such a good wife. As long as His Honor says the word, I will be willing to go through fire and water. Yi-Hua walked to the sofa and said faintly, Wait for your wife to come back, at that time remember to play dead. Big Brother Green told Yi-Hong about what happened just now, and after Yi-Hong heard about it, she felt extremely touched. So, Zishan actually likes me. Yutong, peel an orange. Brother-in-law, you ate too much food that starts a fire. Qing Yutong pouted. Let's go and cut a watermelon then. After eating this watermelon, Zishan should be back by then. Qing Yutong is really convinced, coming to my little brother's house to eat and drink to his heart's content. He is too stingy. Just now, Yi Hua was indeed in a bad mood, and he wanted to directly go over and kill the other party. However, after he calmed down, he felt that it would be better to let Zishan go. After all, it is time for me to settle this matter. At this time, the marquee palace was brightly lit. The birthday banquet was obviously not over yet, but all the important figures had left. After all, they had seen this kind of occasion many times. For example, Wu Man and Che Hongliang had both left. It had to be said that these two people were very lucky. They walked really fast. Ho Shuolin sat on the main seat, admiring the dance of the young ladies. He was thinking about where to sleep today. They saw Lin Hong running over in a panic. Everyone looked at the guard's panicked expression and were puzzled. Did something happen? Ho Shuolin frowned slightly. He rarely saw Lin Hong like this. Arriving beside Prince Ho, Lin Hong lowered his body and said softly, "Prince Ho, we have found Madame Ziyuan." Just that. But what? Ho Shuolin was a little excited. He couldn't be dead, right? Lin Hong said gravely, "Madame Ziyuan already has a man outside." Hearing those words, Ho Shuolin suddenly laughed coldly. His lips twitched as he clenched his fists tightly. A terrifying godly might burst forth from him, completely uncontrollable. The dignified Marquis Wangye had been cuckolded. If this matter were to spread out, would he still have any face left? The guests below also felt Ho Wangye's anger. Something big must have happened. Just when everyone was feeling puzzled, a beautiful figure suddenly walked out slowly. My God, this is Madame Ziyuan. Is this Madame Ziyuan? She is truly beautiful. Even a sky immortal is only so. Her figure is truly wonderful. Prince Ho sure is fortunate to have such a beautiful wife. If I had such a beautiful wife, I wouldn't even take a second step out of my house. That's because you guys have never seen Qinya and Baiji before. They are the true beauties. At the very least they are a grade higher than Zishan. Just by looking at them, one would have a physiological reaction. However, very quickly someone noticed the blood stain on Madame Ziyuan's dress, the dragon rebel sword in her hand, and that faint killing intent. Ho Shuolin stared fixedly at Zishan, who was walking over, and a burst of viciousness immediately erupted from his body. Damned woman! You still have the face to come back. Zishan silently looked at that sinister and ugly face, and suddenly realized that Yi Hong was thousands of times better than him. If it wasn't for him sending people down, Yi Hong wouldn't have died. Today I am going to kill you, shameless woman, and use your head as a sacrifice to the heavens. Ho Shuolin no longer concealed his strength, and immediately, a boundless godly might burst forth from him. Everyone's expression became greatly startled. Has this Prince Ho gone mad? Killing his wife in front of everyone's eyes? Zishan said coldly, I am going to use your head as a sacrifice to the heavens for my love. Hearing that, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. No wonder Prince Ho is so angry. So it turns out that Zishan has a man outside. And now she is even more arrogant. She is truly too daring. Prince, I will lend you a helping hand. Prince, I will come as well. This kind of woman should be hacked into pieces. I will come as well. I hate women who cheat on me the most. Shoo, your highness is listening. Zishan snorted coldly, then shook the dragon rebel sword in her hand and immediately raised it up. A thin silver thread appeared in the air. The silver thread was so fast that it was impossible to see it with naked eyes, and the silver thread was so fast that it was impossible to even sense the spiritual energy contained within it. This silver thread cut through everything, and no matter what it was that came into contact with the silver thread, it was all cut into two. Because the silver thread was too fast, it didn't even cut into two. You dare to play around with such insignificant skills in front of me, you reckless woman. Ho Shuolin immediately took out a sword. When the sword appeared, a shocking godly might was emitted out from it. This was definitely a weapon that was above ancient godly item. Sumeru's sword intent. Ho Shuolin furiously shouted. The sword chi that soared into the sky condensed together, causing everyone to be dumbfounded. The terrifying sword will swept out in all directions, and the sword chi that was at the center of the sword will rush towards Zishan. The silver thread passed through the sword intent, passed through the sword intent in Ho Shuolin's hand, passed through Ho Shuolin's neck, and even passed through the buildings behind him. All of this happened in an instant, and Ho Shualin still had a sinister smile on his face. The terrifying sword intent did not disappear, it continued to attack Zishan, and everything that it passed through turned into a mess. However, when it was about to reach Zishan, it actually split into two and attacked the surrounding people. Immediately, miserable screams could be heard. The two-sword intent exploded within the crowd, and some people directly turned into blood mist. The surrounding people were even more miserable. After all, death was only an instant, and they still had to endure the pain of having their arms cut off. However, the countless amount of blood mist was absorbed into the container in Zishan's hand. Zishan, I didn't expect you to have some strength. Then receive another sword from me. Ho Shualin did not feel anything strange about his neck, he only felt a chill. Zishan faintly said, then you need to have a sword. Ho Shualin's gaze became serious, and he could see that his sword was starting to break from the tip. Chapter 390. Why don't I take a look at your hand first? Zishan said in a light voice, and her tone was completely emotionless. Ho Shualin looked at the hand that was holding the sword. A neat line of blood emerged from the skin, and the middle finger and ring finger began to split apart. Ho Shualin could only watch helplessly as his arms separated. No, this is impossible. Shock appeared in Ho Shualin's eyes as he looked at Zishan, who was not far away from him. Suddenly, he felt that his neck was a little cold, as if it was moving, and the world in front of him had become crooked. Who is this person in front of me? Why didn't it have a head? Blood sprayed into the sky like a fountain and then fell down. Ho Shualin wanted to wipe the liquid off his face, but it was useless. Not right, this person's clothes in front of me looks like me. No. This is not possible, Marquis. Lin Hong exclaimed. Ho Shualin's eyeballs were still moving. Since he was still alive, it could be seen that it was not so easy for a god to die. Take me away. Lin Hong hurriedly held onto Ho Shualin's head and quickly fled the scene. However, just when he turned around, he saw Zishan. Zishan raised the dragon rebel sword high up and slashed down. The entire world seemed to have fallen silent. Ho Shualin was once again split into two halves. Lin Hong directly exploded on the spot, but Ho Shualin still had a primordial spirit. Zishan made a grabbing motion in the air, and the primordial spirit that was charging forward seemed to have been sucked in, and it went straight towards Zishan's small hand. You shameless bitch, what else do you want? A series of shouts resounded from the primordial spirit. Zishan did not say anything. She gradually increased the strength of her left hand. Ho Shualin panicked. Zishan, what are you trying to do? Stop. Zishan. In any case, we are husband and wife. A day as husband and wife means 100 days of love. Zishan said coldly, there is no gratitude between us, there is only hatred. Bang. Zishan directly destroyed Ho Shualin's primordial spirit. Rich people were indeed willful. Did they not know how awesome it was to refine a primordial spirit? He looked at the container. He didn't expect Ho Shualin to raise the price by a third. But this scene scared the people below. Prince Ho was one of the top 10 masters, but his spirit was crushed by his own wife. This was too cruel. Furthermore, the ancient divine artifact on the ground was directly cut into two. What kind of weapon could have such great power? This wasn't a woman at all. This was a demoness, a female bandit. A female demon who kills without blinking an eye. In order to save Yi Hong, Zishan was willing to fall into depravity. Yi Hong had saved Zishan twice. Zishan understood this kindness. Zishan was not a cold-blooded person, and she was touched by Yi Hong's tenacity. You have to learn from Yi Hong if you want to woo a girl. Actually, you can see how good you are to her. As long as you break through her last line of defense, she will be yours from now on. Just like the current Zishan, her heart had already followed Yi Hong. For Yi Hong, she had even started a massacre here and bathed the entire prince's mansion in blood. After a long while, when Zishan saw that the container was filled with blood, she let out a sigh of relief. Then, Zishan swept her gaze across the surroundings, and saw that there were corpses everywhere. Fresh blood flowed on the blue stone. Not a single person was left alive. After finishing everything, Zishan disappeared from the prince's mansion. However, not long after Zishan disappeared, a large group of people rushed out of the imperial palace and headed towards the prince's mansion. Not only the imperial palace, but there were also people rushing over from all directions. In the dark night, the long line of candles was very easy to recognize. Several groups of people rushed to the entrance of the prince's mansion. Looking at the entire prince's mansion, The smell of blood soared to the sky, and countless wronged souls were screaming and crying. Some of them were Wu Mian's people, and some were Che Hongliang's people. As for the people who rushed over from the imperial palace, it was the current crown prince, Zhu Jingqing. The crown prince had a dignified appearance and elegant demeanor. His facial features were not a problem at all. If one were to take a look at him, he would indeed be a character. However, Wu Man knew that the crown prince was actually very dissolute. In the past he even tried to snatch Zishan from the prince. Unfortunately he was a Prince Ho, and even the crown prince did not dare to directly snatch Zishan. After all, Prince Ho and His Majesty were sworn brothers. "Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince." "Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince." Wu Man and Che Hongliang respectfully greeted. Crown Prince Zhu Jingqing looked towards the prince's mansion and said with a grave expression, "This crown prince felt a blood light soaring to the sky from the imperial palace, and when I looked around it was actually the prince's mansion. This crown prince was worried, so I specially brought my personal guards to check it out." Wu Man jumped down from his horse, kneeled on one knee and said, "Your Highness the Crown Prince worries about the subjects and the people. You are my role model." Upon seeing that, Che Hongliang could only get down from his horse and kneel on one knee. After all, he was the Crown Prince. However, all of the guards kneeled on one knee. Zhu Jingqing enjoyed this moment very much. He was being supported by everyone. They had clearly come to check on the Prince Ho's mansion, but in the end, they had turned into flattery, and the souls inside were still screaming. "All of you get up." "Thank you, Crown Prince." Zhu Jingqing patted the unicorn he was riding on. The unicorn's snow-white fur looked very unique among the group, and it was obvious that he was the boss. "Guards, go and take a look at what is happening inside." Zhu Jingqing shouted gravely. 2 guards replied, then ran to the Prince Ho's mansion's entrance and opened the door. Boom! A blood light actually rushed out from within the Prince Ho's mansion, causing everyone to jump in fright, and the Crown Prince almost fell down from his horse. Brr, brr. The blood light transformed into a human face that was screaming non-stop, and there were even more human faces inside the human face. However, the blood light seemed to be unable to rush out of the Prince Ho's mansion, as if it was imprisoned inside. Perhaps even Zishan didn't know about the passive ability of the Dragon Rebel Sword, and that passive ability was able to imprison the souls of the dead, thus achieving the effect of torture. There were countless deaths and injuries in the Prince Ho's mansion, and all of the souls that died had turned into blood light. This kind of thing was extremely rare. It was something that would only happen once in 1,000 years. Che Hongliang looked at the human face that was screaming in front of him and mumbled, "This is blood light." After Che Hongliang finished speaking, everyone's expression sunk. Even Wu Mian's expression was the same. Only Zhu Jingqing had a puzzled expression on his face. "What the hell is this blood light? Wu Ma, and tell me what this crimson glow is?" Zhu Jingqing asked. Wu Man hurriedly kneeled on the ground and begged for forgiveness. "Your Highness, you absolutely cannot tell me this." Zhu Jingqing snorted coldly, "What do you not dare to tell me? Just tell me what I am telling you." "But, there is no but." Wu Man looked towards Che Hongliang, and the latter turned his face away. "The Crown Prince is telling you to tell me, not me. Hurry up. Do you want me to punish you for your crimes?" Wu Man hurriedly said, "Your Highness, when the blood light appears, the country is in trouble." After hearing what Wu Man said, Zhu Jingqing went into a daze for a moment, then soon after he laughed loudly, "What bullshit is this? Just a blood light is enough to scare all of you to this extent. Your Highness, this matter concerns the fate of the country. It is better for us to report this matter to His Majesty," Che Hongliang suggested. "Father has already fallen asleep. How can I, the Crown Prince, not make a decision for such a small matter? Men, follow me inside and take a look at the situation." After finished speaking, Zhu Jingqing jumped off the horse, pulled out his sword and took the lead. The sword slashed towards the blood light, and a dazzling golden light emitted out from the tip of the sword, causing the blood light to instantly disperse. Chapter 391. Wu Man and Che Hongliang hurriedly followed after him. Not long after, they saw the Crown Prince vomiting at the side. Zhu Jingqing was not the only one vomiting. Many soldiers were vomiting as well. Peace had been around for too long, and the soldiers had never seen such a scene. They almost vomited their guts out. When Wu Man and Che Hongliang saw this, they could not help but vomit. Looking at the entire front yard, the scene was indescribably tragic. Basically, there were pieces of corpses and there were no complete corpses. Moreover, the air was filled with a pungent smell of blood as well as a foul stench. After all, some of the intestines were exposed and they were all filthy things. Zhu Jingqing couldn't take it anymore and ran outside. Unexpectedly, he stepped on something and tripped. His entire face sunk into a person's stomach. The problem was that the stomach was split open. Your Highness. Your Highness. Immediately, a group of people rushed over. Many people fell to the ground. The blood on the ground was sticky and had a lubricating effect. A few guards helped the crown prince up and found that the crown prince had fainted. They hurriedly carried him into the palace and summoned the imperial physician. Che Hongliang and Wu Ma and calmed down a lot, and they silently walked towards the marquis mansion. It turned out that the outside was just an appetizer. The inside was even more terrifying. Who was the one who made this? How inhumane. Old Che, the marquis should be dead. Wu Man said as he pinched his nose. Che Hongliang frowned deeply. Was Master Ho's death an accident or was it intentional? After all, many people benefited from Master Ho's death, such as the Crown Prince's faction and his own faction. Report. Found it. A soldier covered in blood ran over to report. Basically, all the soldiers' armors were stained with blood, which was stained when they turned over the corpses. Che Hongliang said in a deep voice, "Bring him here." When they saw Ho Shualin's corpse, Wu Man and Che Hongliang were stunned. They knew Master Ho's strength. At this time, Master Ho was divided into 3 parts. His right hand was connected to his head, and his head was divided into 2. From the looks of the wound, it was very neat, cut by a sharp blade. In the morning, the 3 of them were still discussing problems, but in the evening their entire family was wiped out. The 2 of them couldn't help but wonder if they would have become one of these corpses if they hadn't returned. The answer was obvious. Not long after, the soldiers found Prince Ho's sword. Che Hongliang and Wu Ma knew about this sword. It was an ancient divine weapon. It was not easy to obtain. Marquis Wangye's treasured weapon was actually cut in half. Who could have done this? Elder Che, even if His Majesty is resting, you still have to say something. Yes, let's go together. Che Hongliang also knew the seriousness of the matter. The palace was heavily guarded. There were more than 100 buildings of various sizes, but they surrounded the largest palace in the center like guards. However, this night was different from the past. There were many more patrolling soldiers, and the lights in the hall that should have been extinguished were now brightly lit. On both sides of the palace stood solemn-looking guards, all of them armed with swords. According to the rules, guards were not allowed to bring knives into the palace, but the situation today was different. On the throne was a middle-aged man with a dignified appearance. There was a mole at the corner of his mouth, making him look quite unique. He wore a yellow robe and was currently staring downwards. 3 of them were Crown Prince Zhu Jingqing, Wu Maen and Che Hongliang. The last one was Heavenly Teacher, Ying Wei. This was a white-haired old man holding a long wooden stick in his hand. It looked very rough, as if it was directly chopped down from a tree. However, when this old man held it in his hand, it instantly felt different. Perhaps this was the aura of the old man. Ho Shualin, who was covered with a white cloth, was also in the hall. The dim light made the atmosphere in the hall very heavy, making it hard for people to breathe. Zhu Qingxian lightly knocked on the dragon head armrest and muttered, "Blood aura." Ying Wei cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, the appearance of the blood aura must be guarded against. In order to avoid danger, this official thinks that the imperial hunt should be cancelled." Zhu Qingxian said gravely, "Heavenly Teacher, let's not talk about the hunt for now. First, investigate the cause of Marquis Wangye's death." "Your Majesty, Marquis Wangye was cut into 3 pieces by a sharp blade." Che Hongliang said respectfully. "Open it and let me take a look." Zhu Jingqing said hurriedly, "Father, Marquis Wangye died a miserable death, or Crown Prince, according to the order of seniority, you still have to call him uncle. Even I have to call him big brother." "Father, you are right." Wu Man bowed and lifted the white cloth. Although the white cloth had been pieced together, the mark was still there. Everyone couldn't help but frown. When Zhu Qingxian saw Ho Shualin's corpse, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. "It's great that he died." "That's right. In the past, they used to address each other as brothers, but this Ho Shualin relied on his powerful strength and didn't even put the imperial family in his eyes. Furthermore, he had a lot of small tricks up his sleeves. If one day Ho Shualin were to usurp the throne, Zhu Qingxian wouldn't be too surprised. Where is Marquis Wangye's primordial spirit? Father, Marquis Wangye's primordial spirit has dissipated. I sensed this fluctuation and woke up from my bed. I went to check on the situation. Zhu Jingqing could be considered to be smart, he seemed to want to take all the credit for himself. Zhu Qingxian said faintly, "Crown Prince, you did well." Che Hongliang slightly frowned. Although this Zhu Jingqing looks very unrestrained, he is still very smart at times like this. Did you find out who the murderer is? Is it a man or a woman? Is it tall or thin? Zhu Qingxian asked, but he was just putting on a show. He really wanted to reward the murderer. You did a good deed and helped me get rid of a great threat. Ying Wei said respectfully, judging from the strength and viciousness of the murderer, it should be a man, and he was also holding a special blade. Celestial teacher is right, but is there no one left alive in the whole palace? Zhu Qingxian asked curiously. Father, today is Marquis Wangye's birthday. There are many guests present, including Marquis Wangye's family. None of them survived. Zhu Qingxian sighed and murmured, for thousands of years, there has never been such a tragedy in heaven's sanctum. We must get to the bottom of this. Yes. Also bury Marquis Wangye properly. After all, he was my big brother. Yes. Wu Ma cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, Marquis Wangye is already dead. The realm under his jurisdiction cannot be left unguarded. Che Hongliang hurriedly said. However, Zhu Jingqing was even faster. Father, I am willing to take over temporarily. I will wait for you to find a suitable candidate before handing it over. Che Hongliang cursed at his shamelessness and hurriedly said, Your Majesty, His Highness the Crown Prince already has a realm under his jurisdiction. I am afraid that His Highness the Crown Prince is overworking himself. Chapter 392. Wu Ma admired the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince really knows how to speak. Zhu Qingxian smiled faintly and said, Father Emperor is very happy that the Crown Prince has such a thought. Prince Ho's plane will be temporarily handed over to the Crown Prince to look after, and we will choose another candidate in the future. Che Hongliang almost fainted from anger. Temporarily? Isn't this the same as giving the plane to someone else? Choosing another candidate, this is completely perfunctory. At this time Ying Wei said again, Your Majesty, this hunt? Heavenly Teacher, you are making a big fuss over a small matter. Furthermore, the Huang family's hunt is a big matter for the entire royal family. Which year has it been missing? If it's missing this year, what will the people below talk about it? They will even say that I was scared to the point of trembling in the palace. Is it about this blood-red glow? Heavenly Teacher spoke again. This caused Zhu Qingxian to be a bit unhappy. Heavenly Teacher, these are all legends. But, alright, we will stop here for today, everyone can disperse. Zhu Qingxian waved his hand and shouted. This Ho Xuelin is dead and you want me to not celebrate? Seeing the emperor turn around and leave, Ying Wei let out a deep sigh. I would rather believe in the blood-red glow. Your Highness the Crown Prince, everyone, we have to persuade His Majesty about this blood-red glow. Ying Wei cupped his hands towards the three people and said politely. Zhu Jingqing knew that Father Emperor thought highly of Heavenly Teacher, so he greeted him with a smile. Heavenly Teacher is too serious, I will definitely pass on the message. Then I will have to trouble Your Highness the Crown Prince. Ying Wei gradually started to be satisfied with this Crown Prince's attitude. Zhu Jingqing smiled. After everyone dispersed, Wu Ma smiled. Congratulations, Crown Prince, for obtaining His Majesty's appreciation and obtaining the right to rule over the plain. This is just a small matter, I can easily get it done. Zhu Jingqing smiled in disdain. Fight with me, whoever comes will die. Crown Prince is truly right. Wu Ma praised. The more power the Crown Prince has, the better. Zhu Jingqing placed his hands behind his back and said, Go and make arrangements, we will go and find that Nuwa's descendant in a few days. I heard that Nuwa's descendant has a peerless appearance and innate strength, I am truly envious. Yes. Zhu Jingqing strode towards his bedroom, mumbling to himself, I wonder what kind of peerless beauties are in that plane. Wu Ma heard all of this and bitterly smiled. If the Crown Prince focused on governing, he would definitely be very outstanding. In Long and City's villa. Yi Hua said faintly, They're here. Yi Hong lay down with a thud. Her face was as pale as a corpse. Qing Yutong was helpless. It was clearly a good thing, but in the end, because of her brother-in-law's actions, it became as if Yi Hong was trying to deceive Zishan. If Zishan were to find out that Yi Hong was deceiving Zishan, Yi Hong would have to blow up the matter. It was one thing for him to lie to his elder sister, but he still had to teach his subordinate. He was speechless. Zishan's body appeared in the living room. Zishan hurriedly walked in front of Yi Hua, then bent down and presented the container and dragon rebel sword to Yi Hua. Your Honor, everything is done. Yi Hua took a look at the blood chi within the container. This woman, when she starts being vicious and merciless, she is simply inhumane. She is even more savage than me. After keeping the dragon rebel sword, Yi Hua said faintly, pour this blood chi into his mouth. Zishan hurriedly stood up and carried Yi Hong, who was stiff all over, then poured her blood chi into Yi Hong's body. Yi Hong was also very cooperative, and her body gradually became ruddy. When Zishan saw the change in Yi Hong, she felt that everything was worth it, and 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. Yi Hong slowly opened her eyes, and when she saw Zishan, a sincere smile appeared on her face. On the other hand, Zishan appeared to be a lot more unrestrained. In front of so many people, Zishan directly kissed Yi Hong's mouth. This was domineering. Looking at Uncle Wei, Tang Wei also felt envious in her heart. Uncle Wei doesn't even know how to kiss right now. Qing Yutong could not help but sigh. Even the cola is being poked by someone. Why is there no one poking me? Do you believe that I won't order you to break up immediately and never see each other again? Let's go, let's return. Yi Hua said gravely. Your Honor, I will send you back. Wei Chang hurriedly followed after Wei Chang. Green and Red brothers, Dai and Zishan shouted out respectfully, Farewell, Your Honor. After his honor left, Yi Hong felt a bit embarrassed, and she didn't even dare to look straight at Zishan. Right now, the 2 of them were no longer bound by the shackles, and Yi Hong had also pierced through the layer of paper. Of course, there was still the final layer of paper that was not pierced through. Big Brother Green said with a smile, I'm going to sleep, you guys do as you please, but keep your voice down. Yi Hong's face reddened as she scratched onto the back of her head and said, I'm going to take a bath first. I'll get the hot water for you. No need, I can get the hot water myself. Yi Hong didn't dare to let Zishan do anything else. Walking into the bedroom, Yi Hong finished taking a bath while feeling nervous. Yi Hong discovered that Zishan was actually already lying on the bed. Right now, without the restriction of distance, they are able to sleep in separate rooms. Yi Hua thought to himself that Zishan might have gotten used to sleeping on the bed. I'm going to sleep on the other side. Yi Hong said in a low voice. Zishan, who was lying on the bed, had a light red face. Husband and wife have to sleep together. What do you mean by going to sleep on the other side? Are you going to divorce me? Alright, this is Zishan's original personality. She is very straightforward, and of course she is also a bit hot-tempered. Of course not. Then why aren't you coming over? Yi Hong had no other choice but to go over to Zishan and spread out the bed on the floor just like before. Zishan was almost speechless. I already made it so obvious, go to the bed and sleep. Go to the bed and sleep. Zishan really couldn't take it anymore. Every time I say something he will move a bit. Yi Hong said in a low voice, No need, I'm fine sleeping here. If I tell you to go to the bed, then go to the bed. But I feel that. Yi Hong mumbled. What's the matter? Yi Hong let out a breath, then said gravely, Zishan, I will work hard. When the day comes that I reach your height, I will sleep together with you. If not, Hearing that, Zishan laughed tenderly. This idiot. However, I like him being like this, and I am looking forward to Yi Hong's growth. Alright, I won't force you then, hubby. Zishan said sweetly. Hearing Zishan calling him hubby, Yi Hong almost screamed out in excitement. I feel that everything I do is worth it, and I have motivation to do everything. Yi Hong was filled with confidence. Hubby, you can be at ease, I will make you feel proud. And I am looking forward to that day. However, that day was still far away, causing Zishan to regret agreeing to Yi Hong's request. In the entire team there were 3 people who were living like widows. The first was Sun Fong, she really couldn't do anything when facing a skeleton. The second was Tang Wei, she kept hinting at Wei Chang, but there was no reaction from Wei Chang. The third was Zishan, she was regretting agreeing to Yi Hong's request. If there was one more person they would be able to form a table of mahjong. In the future they wouldn't need a man anymore, they would just sit together and play mahjong every day. Comparatively speaking, Lai Gu's 3 wives were much happier, and Zhu Tian's 2 maids were both in pain and happiness at the same time. As the boss, Yi Hua was currently in a cold war. Compared to his subordinates, Yi Hua's situation had once again verified Qing Yutong's words. Chapter 393. After getting down from Wei Chang's luxurious Qian, Qing Yutong held onto Yi Hua's arm and said with a smile, Brother-in-law, you are pretty good as a matchmaker, why don't you pay attention to your own matters? Sai, let's go to Ju Tian's place tomorrow to freeload a meal. While we're at it, we can also go and ask how the progress is. It has already been more than a month. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. It has already been a month since we last met, and I am indeed starting to miss Ju Tian a bit. Qing Yutong said tenderly, brother-in-law, since you want to go and take a look, why don't you go and take a look at the child? Hearing his sister-in-law's suggestion, Yihua's eyes lit up. This is indeed a good idea. However, he quickly denied it. If he appeared, wouldn't that mean that he had lost? That wouldn't do. Not going. Fine, I've already said this many times, but brother-in-law, you're the one who doesn't listen. The two of them walked into the leisure bar. There was actually not a single customer inside. The business was already extremely bad. Yihua said gravely, there are 4 people who skipped work tonight, Wei Chang, Tang Wei, the Green and Red brothers. 200 from each of you. Qing Yutong was speechless. You are a supreme overlord, and right now, you are even swindling your little brother's money. On the evening of the second day, Yihua brought along his sister-in-law and arrived at Zijin University. Afterward, Yihua went to look for Ju Tian. Ju Tian brought his honor to the teacher's dormitory. Yihua sized up the room, and the room was even smaller than the room that I live in. Ju Tian, what are you going to eat tonight? Yihua asked absent-mindedly. Ju Tian stood at the side and said respectfully, Your Honor, instant noodles. Yihua, Qing Yutong, Ju Tian thought that his honor was worried about his food and drink, thus he hurriedly said, Your Honor, there are many different flavors of instant noodles, you can be at ease, subordinate won't get tired of eating instant noodles. When did I ask you if you were tired of eating? As the brains of the team, don't you know how to treat a meal? Yihua said gravely, let's find a place to eat first while we talk. All right, Your Honor, please follow me. As expected of a smart person, his brain worked quite fast. 10 minutes later, Yihua sat on the small stool and looked at the clay pot rice in front of him, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Qing Yutong looked at Ju Tian, then looked at his bowl of vegetables. He had finally found a subordinate who was even more miserable than his brother-in-law, and it wasn't just an ordinary kind of misery. Ju Tian was also very embarrassed to actually bring his honor to such a small place for a meal. Ju Tian hurriedly explained, Your Honor, Yan Xen recently had a falling out with her family, and all of her funds were cut off. You didn't have much money to begin with, so she has been living frugally. Right now they are even working at night to earn money. Yihua, Qing Yutong, Yihua felt that it would be better for him not to come and look for absolute heaven in the future. Absolute heaven is just too miserable. I reckon that even treating absolute heaven to a meal would cost him his life. While eating, Yihua felt very helpless. This is what it means to enjoy life. There is bitterness, but it is also rather interesting. Your Honor, I have a plan in mind. Ju Tian said. Yihua drank a mouthful of kelp soup. Speak. There's no point in continuing to investigate like this. Why don't we lure the snake out of its hole? Yihua placed down his chopsticks and became serious. Be more detailed. In the past, Dongfang family's influence was too big, and they had gained a lot of benefits when distributing the longevity fruits. This was the reason why the 5 great families had the intention to kill them. If we were to imitate what happened back then, the 5 great families would definitely not be able to sit still. Furthermore, during this period of time, the 5 great families have been fighting with each other, causing some families to complain. This is a good opportunity. After listening to Ju Tian's plan, Yihua felt that it was feasible. It was a good idea to face the current predicament. Alright, let's do that. Yihua's mood while eating became a bit better, as if he could already see his 2 wives retreating in defeat and returning home obediently. Ju Tian stretched out his palm and poked Yihua with his thumb and index finger. Yihua's expression turned cold. What do you mean by this? Are you here to talk about money with me? Don't you know that talking about money is very hurtful to one's feelings? Your Honor, I need some startup funds. Yihua paused for a moment. If it's tens of thousands of RMB, I will just pool them together. If it's more than that, there's no way for me to talk anymore. How much? Yihua asked. Ju Tian had already calculated the amount, and he said in a low voice, 500 billion is more or less enough. Qing Yutong spurted out her food. 500 billion? Brother-in-law doesn't even have 5,000 RMB on him, and even big sister doesn't have 500 billion. You might as well ask brother-in-law to go and rob others. As a supreme overlord, would you go and do such a lowly thing? Yihua looked at Ju Tian, then immediately lowered his head. Ju Tian, You are a smart person, and you even need money to solve such a small matter? I am very disappointed in you. Your Honor. Subordinate is wrong. Qing Yutong was very speechless. Brother-in-law is simply, as brother-in-law subordinate, it seems like my life is so bitter. It's good that you know that you are wrong. Is a problem that can be solved with money still a problem? If I let you solve such a problem, wouldn't it be a waste of your talents? I am very optimistic about you. Yi Hua continued, with an expression of, I am very optimistic about you. However, if you want money, sorry, I don't have a single cent. Zhu Tian was terrified. Subordinate understands, subordinate will definitely do my best to solve this problem. That's more like it. Eat more, this meal is free. Qing Yutong, after finishing eating, Zhu Tian touched his pocket, and his expression changed. Your Honor, I forgot to bring my wallet. Check WeChat. Yi Hua said faintly. Your Honor, I don't have WeChat yet. Qing Yutong was already crying from laughing while hiding at the side. Brother-in-law came to freeload a meal, and in the end he was freeloaded by his subordinate. As expected of a smart person. Yi Hua nearly flipped out, and when Zhu Tian felt his Honor's ice-cold gaze, he was so scared that he started trembling. I really forgot to bring my wallet, I didn't do it on purpose. After checking WeChat, Yi Hua said coldly, Yutong, let's go. Your Honor, take care. Zhu Tian said in a low voice. Looking at his Honor leaving, Zhu Tian let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, I didn't get my salary today. However, after coming to Zijin City, Yi Hua would naturally bring his sister-in-law to taste the snacks of Zijin City. Inside Ji family's ruins. 5 figures appeared. Of course, they were Crown Prince Zhu Jingqing and his lackey Wu Man. The other 3 men were very strange, their height was exactly the same. They looked exactly the same, in any case they looked exactly the same. The triplets were experts that Zhu Jingqing subdued. Originally, Zhu Jingqing wanted to bring more people with him just in case. However, after thinking about it, I am already an unrivaled existence in this low-level plane, let alone experts like these. I am being too careful. Stepping on the ruins, Zhu Jingqing said mockingly, this is one of Prince Ho's 3 big shots? This is how he looks like. What a weakling. Wu Man's mind was still considered to be nimble. Sensing that there was a faint godly might in this place, Wu Man reminded, Your Highness Crown Prince, there is still a godly might remaining in this place. Chapter 394. Crown Prince, for His Highness to be able to make deities release their divine might, he must have met his match. As the Crown Prince's military advisor, Wu Man was smart enough to guess this. However, the Crown Prince only knew how to bootlick, or perhaps he only knew how to be greedy. Zhu Jingqing snorted coldly, that means your skills are inferior. Your Highness, it's possible that the person who killed the Lord's mansion is hiding in this plane. The more Wu Man thought about it, the more scared he became. He wanted to persuade the Crown Prince to leave immediately. Zhu Jingqing glared at Wu Man and shouted, Who the hell are you? Wu Man was so frightened that he immediately knelt down. Of course it's His Highness the Crown Prince's men. That's it. This Ho Xuelin was still hiding the Donghuang clan. He has ulterior motives. Zhu Jingqing saw it when he came over to search. He had to admit that he was a little excited when he saw it. The Donghuang clan had been one of the most powerful beings among all the gods. Of course there was also the Nuwa clan. It would be great if he could subdue the 2 clans this time. Go. Let's meet the Donghuang clan first. Zhu Jingqing was a little impatient. He had come with the identity of a crown prince and he could get whatever he wanted. If anyone dared to disobey him, he would kill them. Wu Man reminded in a low voice, Crown Prince, if there are any awakened ones in the Eastern Emperor clan, we still have to be careful. That Nuwa clan has already awakened. Zhu Jingqing smiled disdainfully, Wu Man, why are you still acting so cowardly in this low-level world? Your Highness, this subordinate has a bad premonition. How about we go back? Zhu Jingqing's eyes turned cold. If you want to go back yourself. Don't appear beside this crown prince in the future. Wu Man had no choice but to follow. Right now, Voidless Realm had already regained its former glory, just that, the population of Voidless Realm had to slowly increase. After all, back then, a lot of people had died in that battle. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were sitting in the courtyard, and they were actually learning how to knit sweaters. It seemed like he was bored out of his mind. Ali, come over. Qingya called out tenderly. Donghuang Li ran all the way over to Qingya, then consciously opened up her hands and gestured towards Qingya. Go and play. However, before Donghuang Li could even play with it, Dong Huang Baiji shouted out again, Ali, come here. Dong Huang Li felt very helpless. Dong Huang Li could only run over to her mother's side and spread out her hands. Alright, go play. Dong Huang Li looked at the two adults and let out a deep sigh. I wonder if daddy is that free. Suddenly, Qingya frowned. Qingya, what's wrong? Dong Huang Baiji immediately sensed that Qingya was acting strangely. Someone's coming. It is the same as last time. Qingya said gravely. Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. Looks like they still came. I'll go and deal with them. And I will go with you. Qingya naturally wouldn't let Dong Huang Baiji deal with this matter by herself. However, Dong Huang Baiji thought that it was those fellows who reported her disrespectful behavior to the higher-ups, and that the higher-ups were here to punish her. Dong Huang Baiji looked at Qingya's stomach. But your stomach is already? It's alright, I am confident. Qingya could feel that the life force of the little fellow in her stomach was very strong. Dong Huang Baiji took a deep breath. Alright then. Ali, stay here and don't come out. Dong Huang Li naturally knew that something big had happened. After the two adults left, Dong Huang Li silently shouted out in her heart, Uncle Wei? Uncle Wei, are you there? Wei Chang, who was far away in Long and City, received Little Sovereign's private message and hurriedly replied, Little Ali, what happened? Is Daddy there? There are bad guys coming, they want to bully Mommy. Dong Huang Li choked with sobs. This little fellow sure is good at acting. Ali, don't cry, Uncle Wei will go and inform your daddy right now. And tell Daddy to hurry over. After ending the call, Dong Huang Li's expression changed. Daddy should be coming over very soon, and then when he sees Mommy his feelings of lovesickness will immediately explode, and then he will put Mommy down, and then, Ali can't think anymore. Ali is still a child. At a food street in Zijin City, Yi Hua and his sister-in-law sat on a small stool and bought 20 RMB worth of stinky tofu. After waiting for a long time, the stinky tofu was finally served. Boss, why is it so little? Yi Hua shouted out unhappily. Handsome little pot, this is a small business, I even added another piece for you. Yi Hua said gravely, how can that do, add another piece, good things come in pairs. The boss laughed, then said, alright, I will add another piece for you. Qing Yutong smiled bitterly. So brother-in-law is actually this good at bargaining, I really didn't expect this. Yi Hua picked up a piece of black stinky tofu, stuffed it into his mouth and chewed on it. The soup completely exploded in his mouth, and that refreshing feeling was incomparable. The outside of the stinky tofu was crispy, and the inside of the stinky tofu was incomparably tender. One word, refreshing. Looking at brother-in-law's infatuated look, Qing Yutong originally didn't want to eat the stinky tofu, because the stinky tofu smells bad. Picking up a piece of stinky tofu, Qing Yutong prepared to bite a small piece to try. Wait a minute. Yi Hua suddenly shouted out. Qing Yutong asked puzzledly. Yi Hua said faintly, this stinky tofu needs to be eaten in one bite for it to feel good. If you eat it like this, you won't be able to feel it. But my mouth is only so big I can't stuff it in. After finished speaking, she opened her cherry lips and showed Yi Hua that her mouth was really only so big I can't stuff it in. Let me help you. Yi Hua picked up a piece of stinky tofu. Make your mouth bigger, that's right, keep your tongue in, keep your teeth in. After finished speaking, Yi Hua stuffed the stinky tofu into his mouth. Hold it in your mouth first and feel that tender taste. Isn't it a bit strong? Do you want to bite it in one bite? Don't hesitate then. After Yi Hua finished speaking, Qing Yutong chewed on the stinky tofu and closed her beautiful eyes. Brother-in-law is right. Looking at his sister-in-law's satisfied look, Yi Hua nodded his head. Sharing my happiness with others can also make me happy. Just that, not long after, Yi Hua regretted, because Qing Yutong began snatching to eat the stinky tofu. If I didn't share just now, all the stinky tofu would be mine. Sharing would only invite others to snatch it. Looking at brother-in-law's resentful look, Qing Yutong acted coquettishly and consoled him. Didn't I just eat a few more pieces? Look at how stingy he is. Your Honor, Young Honor just sent a secret report. The madams are in trouble. Wei Chang hurriedly contacted His Honor. Hearing that, Yi Hua's expression sunk. I got it. Seeing that brother-in-law's expression suddenly changed, Qing Yutong knew that something had happened. Brother-in-law, what happened? Something happened to your big sister. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong disappeared along with Qing Yutong. Arriving at Voidless Realm, Wei Chang quickly rushed over. The three of them were in invisible state and did not reveal themselves. Yi Hua was still very cautious, after all, it was very possible that his daughter had rebelled against him and came to cheat him, her father. However, sensing a few different auras, Yi Hua knew that his daughter wasn't lying, they were indeed in trouble. Chapter 395. Besides, if the deity were to appear now, he would definitely be ridiculed by them. Of course, there was another possibility. He would appear now and save the damsel in distress. Then he would return with the damsel in distress and repeat the same trick. However, who was Yi Hua? Playing that kind of trick once was enough. If he were to play it again, it would be meaningless. Let's look at the situation first. With Qing Ye's ability, she should be able to defeat Ali. After all, Ali has already learned Deviant Fire. Although it is a weakened version of Deviant Fire, it is still very powerful. It would be fine as long as there were no accidents. However, these 5 people were really bold. I didn't go to look for you, but you came to find trouble with me. Furthermore, you directly went to find my woman. Last time I already said something. You can't afford to offend my woman. Brother-in-law, are you not planning to make a move? The 3 of them stood at a corner of the palace and Qin Yutong asked curiously. Yi Hua said faintly, "Take action? You're thinking too much. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would casually make a move? But they are your wives." Qin Yutong was in disbelief. Is brother-in-law really going to be so ruthless this time? It's good for them to suffer a little. Only then will they know how important the reliability of this sovereign is. Qin Yutong was also speechless. Looking at my wife being bullied? Brother-in-law's heart was really big. Of course, Yi Hua wouldn't allow his wife to be bullied for no reason. When one becomes a tool, one must have the despair of being a tool. Since you all came to look for trouble with me today, then you all must consider that I, the Supreme Overlord, will also go and look for trouble with you all. Wei Chang, who was at the back, hurriedly recorded down his honor's words, so that it would be convenient for him and Tang Bingyao to use. Recently, Tang Bingyao's temper has been very bad, causing her to feel very uncomfortable. In the palace, Dong Huang Baiji, who was wearing a purple gown, was sitting on the throne, and below her was Crown Prince Zhu Jinqing. However, when Zhu Jinqing saw Dong Huang Baiji's appearance, he was completely stupefied. Such a woman doesn't even exist in my father's harem. This is what a truly stunning beauty looks like, a stunning beauty that is capable of starting a war. No wonder Ho Xuelin wanted to raise her. It turned out that he had hidden such a beauty here. He was really lucky to have found her today. Wu Ma knew what the Crown Prince was thinking. He was definitely thinking of seizing this woman. It had to be said that this woman was perfect. She had an imposing manner and temperament. She was indeed the best candidate to be the princess. At this time, Yuan Da and the others stood on both sides, watching the 5 people in the middle with vigilance. "Who are you people?" Dong Huang Baiji asked faintly. "How dare you?" Wu Man shouted angrily. As someone from a low-class world, he really didn't have any self-awareness at all. When he saw the Crown Prince, he still didn't kneel. Yi Hua was very stingy. This man actually dared to shout at my wife. Yi Hua said to Wei Chang, "Record down this man's name." "Yes, Your Honor." Qin Yutong rolled her eyes at her brother-in-law. "Are you planning to settle the scores after the fall? And you still don't want to let the big sisters know about it?" Zhu Jingqing immediately stopped his subordinate and said politely, "This one is the Crown Prince of Heaven's Sanctum, Zhu Jingqing." Crown Prince. The hall was in an uproar. The person who came last time claimed to be from the Marquis residence, but today the Crown Prince actually came. Something big was about to happen. Dong Huang Baiji seemed to have also sensed that the arrival of the Crown Prince was definitely not a good thing. The 3 men standing behind them were emitting out ferocious aura, and they were very hard to deal with. "For what matter did Your Highness Crown Prince come here today?" Dong Huang Baiji asked. Those 3 people must have gone back to inform on Crown Prince. However, what Dong Huang Baiji did not know was that those 3 people, along with their boss, were all killed in a single night. Zhu Jingqing revealed out a gentle smile. He looked very comfortable, just like a warm man. Yi Hua said faintly, "Record down this Zhu Jingqing's name." Qin Yutong clicked her tongue a few times. "He's already getting jealous just like this?" No wonder Big Sister said that brother-in-law is the king of jealousy in the cultivation world. Zhu Jingqing looked at Dong Huang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne. "I really want to conquer a woman like this. The process should be very exciting. Shouldn't the Empress grant me a seat?" Zhu Jingqing said with a slightly teasing tone. Upon thinking that the other party was the Crown Prince, and that the other party had brought along 3 valiant generals, in order to protect Voidless Realm, Dong Huang Baiji had no choice but to take a step back. Men grant me a seat. However, Zhu Jingqing directly sat at the center of the throne, facing the empress. Audacious! Xing Han shouted out angrily. This kind of behavior was a huge disrespect towards the empress. You are the audacious one. Wu Man shouted out coldly. To actually speak rudely towards a crown prince of a deity. Zhu Jingqing shouted out gravely, Wu Man, can you not speak? Subordinate obeys. Zhu Jingqing laughed. Subordinate is truly sorry. Subordinate was lacking in manners. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, it's fine. But, Your Majesty, your subordinate was lacking in manners as well. To shout at a crown prince like me in my world he would be sentenced to death. Zhu Jingqing said faintly. This is a trap. Dong Huang Baiji calculated in her heart. The other party is the crown prince of deity realm, and he has a huge army under his control. If I were to be disrespectful towards him, I would be inviting a fatal disaster upon myself. At that time the entire voidless realm would be implicated as well. When one is under the eaves of another, one has no choice but to lower one's head. I apologize to your majesty for my subordinate's disrespectful behavior. Dong Huang Baiji said helplessly. Yi Hua said faintly, add this Zhu Jingqing's descendant as well. Yes. Hearing what Dong Huang Baiji said, Zhu Jingqing suddenly became enlightened. Because this is a good empress who loves her subordinate. With this, I will be able to endlessly threaten her. Your Majesty, you are being too courteous. We are all family, there is no need for you to apologize. Zhu Jingqing grinned and teased. Yi Hua said faintly, add his previous generation as well. Yes. Dong Huang Baiji naturally understood the meaning behind Yi Hua's words and said coldly, Your Majesty, please be a bit more respectful. Your Majesty, I have already respected you enough, don't fail to appreciate my kindness. Zhu Jingqing's eyes revealed out a trace of brilliance. Just what are you trying to do? Dong Huang Baiji, I have been unable to sleep at night recently, and I lack someone to warm my bed. I feel that you are qualified to do so. Zhu Jingqing's words caused Dong Huang Baiji to burn with anger. However, her rationality told her that she mustn't get angry, because if she were to get angry, the entire voidless realm would be buried together with her. Yi Hua said coldly, remember all 18 generations of this Zhu Jingqing's ancestors. Yes. Qing Yutong wanted to observe a moment of silence for this crown prince who is currently acting cool. Your entire family is already on brother-in-law's death list, they are going to be finished. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, Your Majesty sure knows how to joke. Your Majesty is smart and quick-witted, you naturally know whether I am joking or not. Since you are so hesitant, I will give you a bit of motivation. Zhu Jingqing waved his hand. One of the triplets could be seen suddenly disappearing. When the triplet reappeared, the triplet had already grabbed onto Xing Han's neck and raised him up high. Don't. Dong Huang Baiji suddenly stood up. Chapter 396. However, Qingya, who was hiding at the back, was a bit faster. Stretching out her slender finger, a green light shot out and forced the first brother to let go of Xing Han. And when Qingya walked out from the back, Zhu Jingqing's face was filled with greed. However, this greedy expression was seen by Yi Hua, and Yi Hua said gravely, Wei Chang. Write them down for me? Yes. Qing Yutong lightly sighed. Why is there a need to do this? Wouldn't it be better to just directly rush over and exterminate them? Long hair, short experience. If I were to rush over and get killed right now, what kind of effect would that have? Would Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji be moved? Of course not. At that time, there was a possibility that they might even talk about it. Yi Hua, why are you so impulsive? This is the crown prince. Right now, Yi Hua wasn't being impulsive anymore. Right now, I want to teach my wives a lesson. After I am done, I will go and teach this crown prince a lesson. I want to let this crown prince know that acting cool in front of me is the same as acting cool. Looking at Qingya, who was leisurely walking over, Zhu Jingqing revealed a stupefied look. This woman is beautiful. They were so beautiful that they couldn't even be found in the entire heaven's sanctum. These two women were simply the best of the best. If he could be brought into the palace, why would he need to be an emperor? He could even be a subject under the skirt of others. Suddenly, when Zhu Jingqing saw Qingya's slightly bulging lower abdomen, his face stiffened. Following which, his face started to turn sinister, and the veins on his forehead started to bulge. He couldn't even get his first time with such a woman. This was a huge insult and mockery to him. Which damn man is it? This prince will cut that man into 13 pieces. Whose child is this? Zhu Jingqing lost his patience. He stood up and asked, releasing a divine might that made others submit. Qingya looked at the man below and said indifferently, "What does it have to do with you?" "Of course it's related to me. This prince has taken a fancy to the two of you." Zhu Jingqing wildly laughed. He wished he could capture them right now and torture them. Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji laughed lightly. The two women were thinking of the same thing. If Yi Hua was here and heard this man's arrogant words, how would he react? That kind of reaction would be explosive, and this crown prince would deeply regret his choice of words. Qingya smiled sweetly. This caused Zhu Jingqing to be stupefied. Dong Huang Baiji gave off a cold and arrogant aura, while this woman gave off a gentle aura. Comfortable. "If that's the case, I'm really sorry, we already have a man," Qingya said indifferently. Dong Huang Baiji added, "Furthermore, it's the same person." Yi Hua felt that it was time for him to make an appearance, and he even had to make an appearance in a dazzling manner. Yi Hua shouted out, "That is me. You bunch of salted fishes actually dared to spy on my lovely wife." However, he still endured it. Acting cool was a moment of pleasure, but what about the latter part of the sentence? When Zhu Jingqing heard this answer, he instantly lost his composure. "Oh. In this world, apart from me, no one else can have beauties like you. Impossible." Dong Huang Baiji stood up, and when the two women stood together, they immediately looked extremely beautiful. Even Wu Man was dazed. Dong Huang Baiji was too beautiful. There was actually such a woman in such a lowly world. No wonder the Marquis wanted to keep it a secret. He probably wanted to enjoy it for himself. Of course there is. Furthermore, in his eyes, you are nothing. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly. With Yi Hua supporting her, Dong Huang Baiji was very confident. Although they were currently in a cold war, Dong Huang Baiji knew that if something were to happen, Yi Hua would definitely not sit by and do nothing. Qingya added on indifferently, "At most, he can be considered as a dried salted fish." Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, laughed lightly. These two women acting cool together is rather interesting. However, this is good as well. When facing a strong opponent, the two of you will think of me. Audacious. You actually dare to insult His Highness the Crown Prince, and even said that His Highness the Crown Prince is a salted fish. Wu Man took a step forward, pointed his finger at the two women and shouted out. The veins on Zhu Jingqing's forehead bulged out, and because he was angry, his face became red. "Ask him to come out and let me have a look at him then." Dong Huang Baiji suddenly laughed, then said, "Do you think that my husband is someone that you can meet whenever you want to?" The corner of Qingya's mouth revealed out a clever arc as she said proudly, "My husband is 8 feet tall, he has a very graceful bearing, he is solemn, frank and clear, he has the bearing of a dragon and a phoenix, his face is like the moon of mid-autumn, his complexion is like the flowers of the dawn of spring, his hair is like a knife, his eyebrows are like a painting, his eyes are like autumn waves, and although he is angry, he would sometimes smile and his gaze is filled with both anger and affection." Following Qingya's words, the entire place quietened down. Yi Hua, who was hiding at the side, rubbed onto his chin. "I didn't expect that all of my good points would be pointed out by Qingya. Seems like Qingya's eyesight is rather good. Bonus points. Bonus points for all of my good points. Why didn't I say it earlier?" Wei Chang took out a small notebook and noted down everything that His Honor said. What your wife said made His Honor very happy. Qing Yutong seemed to have a very cold look on her face as she hugged her arms. Big sister's words are simply praising brother-in-law to the sky. Look at brother-in-law's proud look. Dong Huang Baiji was also astonished. The first sentence that Dong Huang Baiji spoke was already off the mark. Is Yi Hua 8 feet long? It should be described with inches, right? Could it be that the two of us are not using the same thing? Zhu Jingqing and the others were stupefied. She actually asked me where my face came from? Young lady, do you even have any face left? And she even said that I have a disgusting face. Ew. Not bad. Do you think that just because I like you, you can be arrogant and despotic? Dong Huang Baiji said in disdain, Your Highness, please take back your liking, you are making me want to vomit. Baiji, don't hurt your body, if not our man will feel heartache. Zhu Jingqing couldn't take it anymore and shouted out angrily, Fine. Today I am going to capture you two and exterminate your voidless realm. I am going to let you two know that my dignity is not to be humiliated. The two women's beautiful pupils tensed up. They had already made their preparations for battle. Today either they die or I die. Voidless realm, listen to my command, kill all of them. Dong Huang Baiji shouted out. Zhu Jingqing sneered, Voidless realm, offend your superiors, kill all of them. Yi Hua looked at the development of the situation silently. His gaze was deep, but he didn't have the intention to take action. Brother-in-law, are we still watching? Qing Yutong was puzzled. If we were to rush out right now, the effect would be very good, and the misunderstanding would also disappear. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. They still have a lot of things to learn. Sometimes, failure is also a good thing as they are able to clearly see their own inadequacies. What your honor said is very true, Lang Ye's beauty is unparalleled in this world. Wei Chang hurriedly flattered, causing Qing Yutong to feel so cold that she wanted to hug her brother-in-law's body tightly. Yi Hua was at ease with Qing Ye's strength. After all, Qing Ye who had awakened her bloodline was stronger than Donghuang Baizhi. Thinking up to here, Yi Hua felt that he had to increase Donghuang Baizhi's strength. If not, when he is outside he would have to worry about their safety. Chapter 397. Qing Ye was able to fight against the triplets by herself and was still not defeated. This made Zhu Jingqing and Wu Man feel very surprised. I didn't expect that the Niwa clan would be so powerful. While Donghuang Baizhi was only able to pin down Zhu Jingqing, this gave Wu Man a chance to show off his skills. Wu Man immediately rushed into Voidless Realm and started killing. Kill them all. Kill everyone here. Zhu Jingqing, who was fighting against Donghuang Baizhi, shouted out loudly. As you wish. After speaking, Wu Man slashed towards a child. At this moment, Qing Ye and Donghuang Baizhi turned pale with fright. Ali. It was indeed Donghuang Li. When she heard the sounds of fighting, she came over to help. Daddy is probably stuck in a traffic jam. Seeing that Ali was about to get injured, Qing Yutong hurriedly shook Yi Hua's arm. Brother-in-law. Ali. Quickly go, quickly go. Don't mess around. Ali is stronger than you. Yi Hua pinched onto his sister-in-law's face. He was very assured towards his daughter. Not to mention my daughter is the strongest mini-boss here. Donghuang Li raised her head and looked towards Wu Man. Her baby fat face was blown by the astral wind that Wu Man emitted. This bad uncle is truly shameless to actually bully a child. Ali, quickly dodge. Donghuang Baizhi shouted out loudly. If mommy wants Ali to dodge, then Ali will just dodge. Boom. Smoke filled the air and small stones flew all over the place. Qing Ye and Donghuang Baizhi stopped what they were doing and looked at the scene in a daze. Zhu Jinqing has a sinister smile on his face. As for that Wu Man, it seems like he has done something very awesome. He appeared very savage. However, when the smoke dispersed, Wu Man saw a small figure appear. It's her. She actually stood on top of my sword. How is this possible? Zhu Jingqing was also stupefied. This can't be an old demon, right? Qing Ye and Donghuang Baizhi let out a breath of relief. That scene just now nearly scared their souls away. Qing Yutong patted onto her towering chest. Fortunately, she is fine. Wei Chang revealed a light smile. Since his honor is already so young, he will definitely become an overlord when he grows up. What is there to worry about with these women? Ali possesses my bloodline, and from the day she was born, she is already destined to be extraordinary. You, who are you? Wu Man's eyes opened wide, and he looked as if he had just seen a ghost. His strength was indeed a little weak, but in this low-level world, he was still an invincible existence. Today, however, he was played by a child. Ali isn't going to tell you. Donghuang Li pouted her small mouth, looking very tsundere. The more Wu Man thought about it, the angrier he became. He had lost face in front of the crown prince, and it was all because of this child. I'll kill you. 5 consecutive 6 slashes. Wu Man raised his hand, and a terrifying spiritual energy burst out. Tens of thousands of sword shadows attacked the small figure with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. Instantly, the sword chi crisscrossed, causing everyone to exclaim in admiration. Was this the might of a deity? The huge consumption caused Wu Man's breathing to become ragged. This little brat should be dead. However, not far away, Zhu Jingqing was dumbfounded. This was impossible. Donghuang Li could be seen standing on Wu Man's shoulder with her hands crossed behind her back. Donghuang Li had a very profound look on her face. Looking at his daughter's appearance, Yi Hua laughed lightly. Qing Ye and Donghuang Baizhi let out a sigh of relief. However, just who did she learn this expression from? If not for the fact that Donghuang Li was still very young right now, her face would definitely be even more shocking. However, right now Donghuang Li's appearance was very cool. Wu Man's entire body shivered as he slowly turned his head around. Bad uncle, you are so weak. Dong Huangli laughed. I was called weak by a child. I am the son of a general. I am the favorite of His Highness the Crown Prince. Yet, today in this low-level world I was called weak by a child. I am definitely unable to endure this. Wu Man, whose face was completely red, began swelling up. This wasn't the swelling of his mentality, this was the swelling of his body. Dong Huangli lightly leaped onto the ground, then asked curiously, "Are you Hulk? Green is impossible but red is very red." Wu Man's small and weak body actually swelled up to 3 meters tall, and the muscles on his entire body became as tough as stone. Those thick and solid blood vessels on his body seemed to be filled with power. Roar, roar, roar. Wu Man patted on his chest, then raised his gigantic fist and punched towards Dong Huangli. This punch of his was just like the power of a mountain. Blood surged, and it seemed as if no matter how hard steel was, it would still turn into powder under this punch. Go and die. White spiritual energy gushed out from Wu Ma's body like spring water, and the sound of wind being torn apart could be heard. Dong Huangli pursed her lips, then stretched out her palm. Bang! Wu Man's gigantic fist smashed onto Dong Huangli's small and fleshy palm, and a shockwave was actually created that spread towards the surroundings. Wu Man's feet even sank deep into the ground. After the smoke dispersed, Wu Man's tall and sturdy body was actually looking at Dong Huangli in a daze. What kind of monster are you? Wu Man asked stupidly. If Ali is not a monster, Ali is daddy and mommy's good daughter, you are the monster. Dong Huangli said angrily. While puffing out her cheeks, Dong Huangli seemed to be saying, if you still want to scold me, then I won't be polite anymore. Wu Man raised his head and roared, then shouted out angrily, I am a deity. You lowly and despicable low-level races actually dare to insult me? I am going to use my fist to crush you all. I also want, Before Wu Man could finish his words, Dong Huangli's small hand could be seen grabbing onto Wu Man's thumb, then swung her small arm. Wu Man, who was 3 meters tall and weighed at least a few hundred kilograms, was actually swung high into the air, then fiercely smashed onto the ground. This was not the end. Dong Huangli swung left and right, and Wu Man was just like a doll that was being swung around by Dong Huangli's petite body. Bang, 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 bang. Everyone was stupefied as they looked at Dong Huangli foolishly. In the end, Dong Huangli ruthlessly smashed onto the ground, then snorted, what a weak deity. Right now Wu Man had already fainted from being smashed. It was fortunate that he didn't hear what Dong Huangli said, if not, he would definitely have fainted from anger. After jumping over Wu Man's body, Dong Huangli placed her hands on her waist and looked at Zhu Jingqing and the others. You bad guys are already surrounded by Ali, be tactful and raise your hands to surrender. If not, Ali is going to get angry. Ali has watched too many police and bandit movies, after all our entire family are bandits, not police. Qing Yutong's beautiful face became soft. I really want to hug Ali, she is so cute, little sovereign is very courageous. Wei Chang gave the highest evaluation of Ali. Zhu Jingqing was already suppressed by Ali, and right now he was also a bit flustered. Capture this child for me. Yes, Your Highness Crown Prince. The triplets immediately pounced towards Dong Huangli like hungry wolves. As long as they are able to capture Dong Huangli, they would definitely tear her apart. However, who was Dong Huangli? She was the first child of a supreme overlord. Chapter 398. Ho ho ho, can't catch me, can't catch me. Dong Huangli made a funny face, then jumped away from Dong Huangli. A lump of golden flame appeared on Dong Huangli's finger, and without even thinking, Dong Huangli threw out the lump of golden flame. A small ball of golden flames drew an arc in the air. It was very beautiful but also very terrifying. When the flames landed at the feet of the triplets, they instantly burst into flames. It was as if gasoline had found sparks and wanted to burn everything. The triplets were instantly buried in the sea of fire. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they turned into golden liquid that flowed on the ground. However, the fire could not be controlled at all. It rushed towards His Highness. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Once this sunfall heavenly fire comes into contact with an object, it would burn everything. Don't look at how Dong Huangli had only thrown out a small amount of sunfall heavenly fire, it was more than enough to burn the entire voidless realm. Dong Huangli was stupefied. It was clearly just a small fire, how did it become so big? He even burned Mama's palace. Dong Huangli, who didn't know what to do, immediately burst into tears, because her mommy will definitely scold her. Facing such a huge fire, no one was able to do anything. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't be bothered with the crown prince anymore. She hurriedly carried her daughter into her embrace and left, then ordered everyone to leave. Zhu Jingqing took this opportunity to escape. Just you wait. Wait for me to summon 1,000,000 soldiers. Now you know what pain is. Right now, everyone in Voidless Realm was looking at the tallest mountain, and the tallest mountain had already turned into a huge fireball. As the Empress Palace, it was the most luxurious and symbolic place. Today it was actually burned down by the Empress daughter. Everyone was heartbroken, but there was nothing they could do. Dong Huangli was already tired of crying, and while lying on her mother's bosom, she fell asleep. Dong Huang Baiji wanted to scold her, but she didn't know how to do it. Her daughter had resolved the crisis, but she had accidentally burned down the entire palace. It's all Yihua's fault. Seems like right now Yihua has to take the blame for everything. This is truly too miserable. In actuality, Yihua was powerless to do anything. The might of the deviant flames was unimaginable, especially the sunfall heavenly flame, which couldn't be extinguished no matter what. Qinya let out a deep sigh. I have already told you. You can't teach a child to be too formidable, Yihua just won't listen. How long is this fire going to burn? Dong Huang Baiji mumbled. Suddenly, a very obvious small fireball fell from the fireball and landed on a mountain below. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji's faces stiffened. Sure enough, the mountain peak was instantly set ablaze, and Dong Huang Baiji immediately dispersed the crowd. In the end, Voidless Realm had no choice but to gather the people from Voidless Realm and push the two mountains far away. Only then was Voidless Realm able to escape from this calamity. The main culprit, Dong Huangli, was currently pretending to be asleep, fearing that she would be scolded by her mother. Voidless Realm, which was missing two mountains, looked very awkward, especially with the disappearance of the King Peak, which was the topmost mountain. Voidless Realm looked just like a bald lady. Yihua expressed that there was nothing he could do about it. Although my main body is heaven-defying, there are still some things that cannot be changed. Fortunately, Voidless Realm was not a single entity. If Voidless Realm was a single entity, Voidless Realm would have definitely been burned to the ground. This was also the reason why Yihua often said that it was actually very easy to burn down the entire world. Now even little Ali could do it. Alright, I just want to see Voidless Realm get burned down. If that's the case, we will have no place to return to, and we can only return to Voidless Realm. However, after this incident, I reckon that Dong Huangli wouldn't use Sunfall Heavenly Fire anymore. It was a pity that Wu Mian, the military advisor, was knocked unconscious after only appearing for a few times. When Zhu Jingqing left, he didn't even care about Wu Mian and ended up being burned to death. As for the triplets, they all died mysteriously. I reckon that they didn't even have the feeling of death. Seeing that the three of them were fine, Yihua, who was standing in the air, felt relieved. He didn't have any intention of meeting with them, and thus he left with Wei Chang and his sister-in-law. Because there are more important things that I have to do, it doesn't seem appropriate for this crown prince to leave just like that, right? Seems like I have to bring my subordinates out for a walk and not force them too much, especially Yi Zizi, who has a bitter expression on her face all day long. Returning back to Leisure Bar, Yihua sent his sister-in-law away and prepared to have a good talk with Yi Zizi. Yihua pushed open the door of the bar, and Yi Zizi's petite back could be seen sitting in front of the desk. Her two ponytails were swaying back and forth behind her head, and it was clear that she was trying to seduce people. What are you doing? Yihua walked over and asked faintly. Yi Zizi said, teacher's assignment. Yihua took a look at Yi Zizi and saw that she was copying a text, just that, the handwriting is not something that an ordinary person would be able to recognize. Pulling out a small stool, Yihua sat at the side and asked lightly, what's wrong? Are you unhappy? Yi Zizi pursed her lips and said with grievance, Zizi doesn't dare to be unhappy. Then I will register you for a cram school. Yi Zizi could be seen directly pouncing into Yihua's embrace and acting cute. Ugh, your honor, I feel like vomiting, it's so stifling. Yihua patted onto Yi Zizi's forehead. The reason why I came over this time is to help you reduce the pressure. Yi Zizi's beautiful eyes lit up, and she immediately sat properly like a good student and vowed solemnly, Your honor, as long as you help me reduce the pressure, I promise that I will study properly and improve every day. Rubbing onto Yi Zizi's head, Yihua said eerily, You will enjoy this time of reducing the pressure. The corner of Yi Zizi's mouth arced upwards, her pair of big scarlet eyes were flickering with bloodlust, and her bright red tongue was licking the corner of her mouth, seemingly unable to wait any longer. Zhu Jingqing, who was forced to return to Heaven's Mansion, was currently in a violent rage. Today I lost 4 of my generals. The most important thing is that Wu Ma died. Wu Ma family had been guarding the borders of Heaven's Mansion for generations, defending against the ferocious beasts of Heaven's Mansion in exchange for 1,000 years of peace. And this Wu Ma was the youngest son that the general doted on. If I were to tell him about this unfortunate news, Father Emperor would definitely blame me. Furthermore, in order to appease Wu Ma family, the punishment will be very heavy. This is not a situation that Zhu Jingqing wanted to see. Bang bang bang. Countless spirit porcelains were smashed into pieces by Zhu Jingqing. This kind of low-level world actually has such a child. That's right. This child called Donghuang Baiji Mother. Could it be that this child awakened East Emperor's bloodline? So, everything will make sense. This East Emperor's bloodline is indeed terrifying. No wonder Ho Xuelin wanted to take it for himself. That's right. Since no one knows about Wu Mayan's death, I might as well push the blame onto the person who destroyed Ho Wang Mansion. Your Highness the Crown Prince. A dignified-looking woman could be seen walking over and shouting out with a sweet voice. When Zhu Jingqing, who was in a violent rage, saw this concubine, he immediately thought of those 2 women and grabbed onto the concubine's wrist. Your Highness the Crown Prince, it hurts, Zhu Jingqing shouted out towards the maids. All of you scram out. After all of the maids left the room, Zhu Jingqing directly pressed the concubine onto the table and vented out the resentment in his heart. Zhu Jingqing even swore that sooner or later he will definitely kill those 2 women. After venting out his resentment, Zhu Jingqing felt much better and rewarded the concubine. Chapter 399. Zhu Jingqing was puzzled. Now that Wu Ma was gone, he had lost a powerful foil. Alright, allow me to undress. After changing into a new robe, Zhu Jingqing walked into the hall uneasily and saw the person he didn't want to see the most. Wu Ma Chao. Che Hongliang and Celestial Master Ing Wei were there as well. They seemed to be discussing something. Wu Ma Chao wasn't as handsome as his youngest son, Wu Ma. His fierce face showed the traces of time. Even when meeting the emperor, he wore armor. If Wu Ma Chao knew that his youngest son had been killed by the Crown Prince, he would probably kill the Crown Prince. Why did General Wu Ma suddenly rush back? Zhu Qingxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked curiously. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I received a secret report from the Celestial Master and immediately rushed back. Wu Ma Chao's voice was loud and clear. Zhu Qingxian was unhappy. The Celestial Master was making a big deal out of nothing. Celestial Master, General Wu Ma is guarding the border. How can we let him come back so suddenly? The Celestial Master was terrified. Your Majesty, this is a special time. With General Wu Ma here, the royal hunt will be safer. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and shouted, Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will do my best to protect Your Majesty. Then I will have to trouble General Wu Ma. Zhu Qingxian was helpless. A trace of annoyance flashed between his brows. Crown Prince, the royal hunt is in 3 days. Finish this quickly. Zhu Qingxian said to his son. This was also a chance for his son to perform for the royal family. Zhu Jingqing cupped his hands and said, Your son understands. Zhu Qingxian nodded and scanned the crowd. I don't want to hear anyone else talk about this bloody light. Anyone who disobeys will be executed. The 4 knelt together. Your Majesty is wise. You may all leave. The 4 bowed and left the hall. Zhu Jingqing quickened his pace. He didn't want to talk to Wu Ma Chao in case the latter saw through him. However, this action made Wu Ma Chao feel like something was wrong. In the past, this Crown Prince was trying to curry favor with him, but now he was leaving so quickly. Your Highness, Wu Ma Chao called with a smile. Zhu Jingqing stopped in his tracks and cursed under his breath. However, he still turned around and smiled. General Wu Ma. Why is my son not accompanying the Crown Prince? Wu Ma Chao asked curiously. Oh, I didn't see it today either. Zhu Jingqing smiled. You won't be able to find this corpse in your entire life. Wu Ma Chao smiled. That's strange. He's not at home either. Maybe I'll go to a girl's house and stay the night. Zhu Jingqing's words made Wu Ma Chao believe him. Being romantic was their motto. This general will not disturb the Crown Prince any further. I hope the Crown Prince will guide my son. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands in greeting. Zhu Jingqing laughed heartily. Well said, well said. Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Jingqing heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, today was a secret mission and no one knew. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Che Hongliang suddenly walked out from the side, a pair of small eyes revealing shrewdness. Zhu Jingqing was startled, but he squeezed out a smile. Sir Che. Che Hongliang chuckled. Today Your Highness the Crown Prince brought the general's son and a few subordinates out. I'm sure your luck with women is not shallow. Zhu Jingqing really wanted to chop this bastard in front of him into pieces. He actually sent people to spy on me. Furthermore, he also found out about today's matter. What should I do? Seeing that the Crown Prince did not speak, Che Hongliang said indifferently, Just now, Your Highness the Crown Prince and the General said that you don't know Wu Mian's whereabouts. This is a bit. Sir Che must have remembered wrongly. Zhu Jingqing gradually stopped smiling. At this moment he could not even smile anymore. Then, if the General knows that the Crown Prince lied, I'm afraid that the matter will be reported to His Majesty. Che Hongliang. Just what are you trying to do? Zhu Jingqing lowered his voice and shouted. Relying on the support of the Empress, the Crown Prince actually dared to speak rudely to me. Che Hongliang did not expect the Crown Prince to have such a big reaction. At the start, I was only probing, but from the looks of it now, something must have happened. Otherwise, the Crown Prince would not be this nervous. Could it be that Wu Man has already? Your Highness the Crown Prince is very busy. I'm just afraid that Your Highness the Crown Prince is too busy. Don't you just want a plane? I'll give you one and seal your mouth. So it's this matter. Sir Che, you can be at ease. After the imperial hunt is over, I will report this matter to my father. This was precisely what Che Hongliang wanted to hear. Thank you, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Take care, Sir Che. Looking at Che Hongliang leaving, Zhu Jingqing wished that he could take out his sword and stab Che Hongliang in the back. To actually dare to trick even me. Just now, it would have been great if I had brought the unconscious Wu Man along with me. If not, why would I be threatened by Che Hongliang now? Right now, the most important matter is to properly handle the imperial hunt. After the imperial hunt is over, I will think of a way to get the Donghuang bloodline, Nuo bloodline, and those two women. This matter cannot be spoken out even if I am beaten to death. After all, this matter is more important than the throne. 3 days passed by very quickly. Because it was the imperial hunt, the people in the city were celebrating as if it was a festival. To them, the imperial hunt was a big day. The more the imperial hunt was, the more glorious the imperial family was, and the more peaceful the Heaven's Mansion was. Of course, the hunt was also a chance for the princess to perform. Although the Crown Prince had already been decided, it was still possible to remove him from his position. The princes all wanted to drag the Crown Prince down from his pedestal. There were more than 2,000 members of the imperial family in total. Including the generals and guards, there were more than 10,000 people. Zhu Jingqing was the person in charge of this hunt, and he was in charge of everything. Just as Zhu Jingqing was busy, Wu Machao walked over in his armor. He was in charge of safety this time. Your Highness, have you seen my son these past few days? Wu Machao asked in a low voice. His eyes were filled with displeasure. Zhu Jingqing felt Wu Machao's questioning and immediately greeted him with a smile. General Wu Ma, the Crown Prince has been busy making arrangements for the hunt these past few days. He has been so busy that he has not seen young master and, that is strange. Once this hunt is over, I hope that Your Highness will give me an answer. This was Wu Machao's final message. His son's sudden disappearance was definitely not normal. It must have something to do with the Crown Prince. Zhu Jingqing hurriedly comforted him. Do not worry, General Wu Ma. Once the hunt is over, this Crown Prince will immediately go find young master and perhaps he is infatuated with someone's daughter. Then I hope that Your Highness will remember your words. Wu Machao was not so easy to trick. He, the father, had returned, but his son had to come and see him. Which family's daughter could be kept? Seeing Wu Machao leave, Zhu Jingqing let out a sigh of relief. His heart was heavy. Chapter 400. Drums thundered through the air, carrying with them a sense of majesty and solemnity. It also symbolized that the royal family was out on patrol, and everyone had to kneel to welcome them. As the procession walked out of the palace, everyone on the road to the city gates knelt down to welcome them. This was the royal family of Heaven's Sanctum. Everyone had to submit to them. After walking out of the southern city gates, the procession gradually rose into the sky and rushed towards the hunting grounds. The majestic procession walked in the sky. When they passed by the city, the people below looked up at the royal family and then knelt down to offer their sincere blessings. The hunting was a traditional festival of the royal family. For safety and the dignity of the royal family, some spirit beasts were specially reared for the royal family to hunt, or if someone injured the spirit beasts first, then the princes would hunt them. In short, the royal hunt was a deep set of traps. Changlin was the royal hunting grounds. Zhu Jingqing had built a temporary courtyard, and opposite the courtyard was a forest. When the people of the royal family arrived, the forest was filled with the melodious chirping of birds. Thousands of birds flew into the sky. Your Majesty is blessed. Even these birds are cheering for your Majesty's arrival. Che Hongliang couldn't help but flatter. Che Mainyang was the current empress and Che Hongliang's older sister. In such an occasion she would definitely stand by the emperor's side. Receiving the protection of your Majesty, even these birds are singing your praises. It's a good sign. Che Mainyang laughed softly. Behind her was a group of beautiful concubines, all of whom only wanted to receive the emperor's favor. And among these concubines, there were many virgins that even the emperor had forgotten to touch. Hearing these compliments, Zhu Qingxian revealed a faint smile. With this emperor here, the country will naturally prosper and the people will be at peace. Following Zhu Qingshuan's words, everyone knelt down and shouted, "God bless your Majesty, God bless heaven's sanctum." Zhu Qingxian smiled and waved his hand. The people began to set up camp, while the people of the royal family and the others entered the courtyard to rest. Walking into the courtyard, Zhu Qingxian smiled, "Crown Prince, you did well. Thank you for the praise, Father." In the past, they had to set up tents for the hunt, but this time, Zhu Jingqing had built a temporary courtyard in 3 days. Hearing the emperor praise the crown prince, Che Mainyang and Che Hongliang were very unhappy. "Your Majesty, if you let Yun'er do it, I believe she will do it well," Che Mainyang said in a low voice. Zhu Yun bowed and stood to the side. In a low voice he said, "Your Highness, the crown prince's intelligence surpasses others. Your son is inferior." Zhu Qingxian didn't say anything, but Che Mainyang glared at her son. Zhu Yun actually didn't like it. Father Emperor valued Zhu Jinqing very much now. Now that Zhu Yun was comparing himself to him, wouldn't that make Father Emperor feel disgusted? This Zhu Yun was a smart person and had some ability. Che Hongliang also valued him a lot, but his sister was too impatient, causing Zhu Yun's image to be bad in front of his Majesty. "Royal brother, you must be joking. If you were to handle this matter, you would definitely surpass me. Crown Prince, you are too kind." The two of them complimented each other and were equally matched. As for the princes who were following behind, they watched the development of the situation. Right now the crown prince obviously had the upper hand, but Zhu Yun had the support of the empress and Che Hongliang. His strength could not be underestimated. In addition, Marquis Wang Ye's entire family was suddenly wiped out. The situation suddenly became complicated and confusing. As the emperor, Zhu Qingxian came here to relax and watch the performance of the princes. Of course, he also had to pamper the imperial concubines. After all, this was also a chance for them. Although they couldn't enjoy the rain and dew, at least they could break as many as they could. At least they wouldn't die with their bodies intact. The hunt officially begins. Princes, go and prepare. Following Emperor Zhu Qingshuan's order, hundreds of princes began to prepare to enter the field. As for the wives of these princes, they also began to worry. Although the spirit beasts in Changlin were of low level, accidents might happen. One had to know. Every time there was a hunt, someone would die. Perhaps these women didn't know that they weren't killed by the spirit beasts, but by their half-brothers. The royal family was just that cruel. As the emperor, he saw all of this but didn't stop it. If the world wasn't won through fighting, would it still be called the world? Princes died one after another, and young princes were born continuously. The gods who had a long life didn't worry about the future generations. Zhu Jingqing was the crown prince and the leader of the entire faction. Although he had lost a powerful helper like Wu Man, these younger brothers still had a lot of power. It seemed like he had to think about it carefully. "Crown Prince, why don't we have a competition?" Zhu Yun, who was riding on by Rong, said to Zhu Jingqing with a smile. Dozens of princes followed behind him. Zhu Jingqing also had many princes. "Royal brother, you said the same thing last year, right?" Zhu Jingqing said indifferently. He didn't even look at Zhu Yun and his words were full of sarcasm. "Crown Prince, you are right. However, I have practiced for a year and I hope to catch up to you." Zhu Jingqing chuckled and said, "Royal brother, even if you practice for another 100 years, you still won't be able to catch up to me. Jia." After saying this, Zhu Jingqing led the princes of one faction into Changlin. Dust instantly flew up. Zhu Yun's eyes gleamed coldly as he shouted, "Jia!" After the princes of the two factions left, there were dozens of princes left. They didn't want to fight and wanted to be free. Therefore they entered Changlin unhurriedly and hunted some small animals in the periphery before going back to report. After Zhu Jingqing rushed into Changlin, he didn't go inside. Instead, he circled around the periphery before he stopped. "Crown Prince. I'm afraid that Zhu Yun is going to kill you." This person was called Zhu Di. Apart from Wu Man, he was the only person that Zhu Jingqing trusted. Zhu Jingqing sneered, "After so many years of killing, has he ever succeeded? Your Highness, you should be careful." Zhu Di warned. It was better to be safe than sorry. Underestimating the enemy was a taboo in the military. However, Zhu Jingqing seemed to have forgotten the lesson from 3 days ago. "Brothers, let's warm up in the outer perimeter first. Then follow me in to kill the strongest spirit beast. Let the Emperor Father witness our teamwork." Zhu Jingqing exuded the might of the Crown Prince and shouted at the people behind him to boost their morale. "Yes, Your Highness." On the other side, Zhu Yun led his people to circle around the periphery before he stopped. This time, they must kill the Crown Prince. Of course they couldn't kill him openly. They had to pretend that they were killed by the spiritual beast. "Royal brother, we must win this time." A handsome man rode out on a spiritual horse. His name was Zhu Zhu, and he was Zhu Yun's right-hand man. Zhu Yun said in a deep voice, "It's either we succeed or we die. It's time to change the Crown Prince." "Royal brother, you're right. Zhu Jingqing is a playboy. I don't know what father sees in him. Even if he sees something, he will unfortunately die under the spiritual beast's cudgels today." Zhu Yun revealed a murderous look as if he had killed his father. After saying that, Zhu Yun led his people into the depths of Changlin. It seemed like he wanted to set up an ambush first. There were only some ordinary spirit beasts in the periphery. They were like rabbits or deer and they weren't aggressive at all. However, as they went deeper, the spiritual beasts became more lethal. However, the strongest spiritual beasts here were only high-level spiritual beasts. Just like ordinary people and tigers and lions, there wouldn't be any dinosaur-level spiritual beasts. Therefore, the spiritual beasts weren't much of a threat to the princes. After all, the weapons in their hands were ancient godly items. As for ancient godly items, they were very rare. Chapter 401. As Zhu Yun ventured deeper into the forest, the air was filled with a sense of fear. This caused everyone to feel strange. "Brother, why do I feel that something is wrong?" Zhu Zhu frowned and looked around. Why didn't he feel this way in the past? It was as if a strange aura was pressing down on his back, making it hard for him to breathe. Zhu Yun also noticed that something was amiss and stopped his horse. His instincts told him that he couldn't go any deeper. Could there be a high-level ancient beast? Zhu Yun muttered. "That's possible." Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, a series of stomping sounds rang out, causing the ground to tremble. The prince's horses were startled, but they quickly calmed down. After all, their mounts were not ordinary war horses. The tremors on the ground were getting stronger and stronger, indicating that they were getting closer. Zhu Yun felt his entire body trembling. Brr. An angry roar broke the tranquility of the forest. Under the roar, the spiritual energy fluctuations spread out in all directions. Everyone immediately put up their defenses. Zhu Zhu was in disbelief and shouted, "This is a high-level ancient beast, Black-Green Eye." The princes were shocked. They didn't even see any high-level spirit beasts, but a high-level ancient beast had suddenly appeared. This was the royal hunting ground. How could there be such an ancient beast? "Retreat! Retreat!" Zhu Yun hurriedly ordered and turned to run. Black-Green Eye was not an ordinary high-level ancient beast because its size was not ordinary. Boom! Just as the princes were about to turn and run, a gigantic ancient beast charged at them. It had a pair of green eyes, 4 limbs and silvery white fur all over its body. It was several hundred meters tall and every time it ran the ground would tremble. However, upon closer inspection, the green eyes and black eyes looked a bit like a gorilla. Even the way it ran was a bit similar. However, its face was filled with fear. Its green eyes seemed to have seen something even more terrifying. It ran outside without a care for its life. The war horses of the princes were relatively fast, but compared to a high-level ancient beast, they were still lacking. "Scatter and run," Zhu Yun shouted. Black-Green Eye looked at the princes that were like ants and it wanted to stomp them to death. A few princes instantly died under Black-Green Eye's huge foot, and they were actually stomped into meat paste. "Stop! Zhu Yun suddenly shouted. Everyone stopped what they were doing and dodged the attack very well. After that, Black Eye ran away just like that. What was going on? Wasn't it chasing after him? Why did he run away? Imperial brother, Black Eye seems to be being chased by something. Zhu gasped for breath. The situation just now was truly terrifying. If the black-eyed beast turned around and attacked, the consequences would be unthinkable. In actuality, this black-eyed beast was much more powerful than Ying family's and Voidless Realm's divine beasts, and they weren't on the same level at all. However, in Voidless Realm, this black-eyed beast was merely a high-rank ancient beast. On the other hand, Ying family and Voidless Realm's godly beasts could only be considered as high-level spiritual beasts at most. Just as Zhu Yun was about to say something, the ground suddenly began to squirm. Everyone looked at their feet. There was something moving quickly below them. Everyone had a bad feeling as they looked at Black-Eyed, who was running for his life in the distance. Boom. The princes stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. A gigantic corpse Kuan drilled out from the ground and opened its bloody mouth. Its green eyes were filled with panic. In terms of size, the two weren't on the same level at all. The corpse Kuan was several thousand meters long, and when it opened its bloody mouth, it was large enough to swallow the black-eyed beast whole. Fear appeared on Black-Eye's face. Although it had jumped high into the air, it wasn't flying and it was still going to fall. Lowering its head and looking at the huge mouth that was filled with a fishy smell, Black-Eyed fell into despair. The corpse Kuan could be seen fiercely closing its mouth and letting out a loud sound. The lower half of Black-Eye's body was gone, and only its chest and head were left. The two enormous beasts landed from the sky, raising a cloud of dust. All the princes were dumbstruck. However, the matter wasn't over yet. Right now, Black-Eyed wasn't completely dead yet. Its strong desire to live was telling it that it still had a chance to live. The corpse Kuan was like a python as it revolved around Black-Eyed, seemingly playing with this weak life. Imperial brother, why would this ferocious beast appear in Changlin? Zhu's tone was filled with boundless fear. It is impossible for such a ferocious beast to appear in Changlin. Zhu Yun's chest moved up and down, seeming to be very excited. However, within this excitement there was also deep fear. Blood glow. Blood glow. Blood glow. All the princes thought back to what happened a few days ago. Although the news of what happened was sealed off, all of them still knew about it. Now that the corpse Kuan suddenly appeared in Changlin, does this mean that the blood glow has been verified? The corpse Kuan seemed to have finished playing with the corpse Kuan and swallowed the remaining black-eyed. Right now, all the princes didn't dare to make any movements, fearing that this damnable corpse Kuan would attack them. If that happened, they would be dead for sure. On the other side, Zhu Jingqing and his men had hunted quite a lot of low-grade spiritual beasts, and their results were pretty good. Crown Prince, do you think that this Zhu Yun will ambush us like how he did in the past? Zhu Di asked with a smile on his face while stepping on the three-horned deer's corpse. Zhu Jingqing sneered, other than ambush, could it be that he still has other tricks up his sleeves? Perhaps he might even call an accomplice? Zhu Di said jokingly. Accomplice? This is a battle between princes. If he really calls an accomplice and this matter is reported to father, the one who will be out of luck will still be him. Although the emperor allowed the princes to fight during the hunt, it was ultimately a battle within the family, and if outsiders were to get involved, it would be a huge crime. Your Highness is right, but we must also be careful. Zhu Di warned. This was the same as Wu Min, they were both doing it for the sake of the crown prince. However, when these words fell into Zhu Jingqing's ears, it was different, as if he was looking down on him. What is there to be afraid of, a small Zhu Yun? It's almost time to go in, this crown prince will take this Zhu Yun's head today. Zhu Jingqing was incomparably arrogant. He was truly someone who was not afraid of being beaten. Brr. Suddenly, a roar came from the depths of the forest. Everyone couldn't help but stop in their tracks, and their position started to shake slightly. Your Highness, this is an ancient beast. Zhu Di guessed because it was too far away he could only make a guess. Zhu Jingqing waited for a long time, and nothing happened. As if the roar was just an illusion, he chuckled, let's go. At this time Zhu Yun was sweating profusely. The corpse Kuan was actually not moving. Furthermore, the corpse Kuan was fixedly staring at Zhu Yun's side, as if it was issuing a warning. Looking at the festering flesh and the stench coming from the corpse Kuan, the princes' faces flushed red, and they felt like vomiting, but they didn't dare to vomit. Suddenly, a cheerful melody rang out from the depths of the forest. Happy goat, beautiful goat, lazy goat, boiling goat? At this kind of gloomy moment, there was actually someone singing and everyone couldn't help but look over. Chapter 402. Don't look at me as a sheep, I am actually a wolf. The princes looked at the little girl stupidly. They weren't shocked by the little girl but because the little girl was riding on the sheep and swaggered past the corpse Kuan. How is this possible? This is a ferocious corpse Kuan, a powerful and ferocious beast that kills people like killing chickens. You, such a cute little girl, actually walked past him and sat on the back of a weak spirit goat. Isn't this the same as delivering delicious food? Izizi stretched out her little hand and yawned. I love his honor so much, he actually let me relieve pressure like this. Sob, sob, sob. I'm so happy. These lowly humans revealed that terrified expression again. It was so comfortable to watch. When Izizi stopped in front of the corpse Kuan, everyone took in a mouthful of cold air. If they still don't know what is going on, then they aren't fit to be princes. This little girl is the mastermind behind the scenes, and this corpse Kuan is listening to her. My God, how is this possible? Why would a powerful corpse Kuan listen to a little girl? Izizi jumped down from the sheep's back, then looked at the well-dressed princes in front of her and said, Little brothers, how do you want to die? Zhu looked at the cute little lowly and the huge corpse Kuan in front of him, and his mind actually went blank. Zhu, who was at the side, was also stupefied. This is simply unbelievable. However, one of the princes came back to his senses rather quickly. He could no longer hold back the fear in his heart, and he immediately rode on the spiritual horse and fled. Izizi let out a light sigh as if she was feeling very regretful. Then a strand of hair that was like a sharp blade pierced through the prince's head, and the prince hung high up in the air. It has been a long time since I tasted blood essence. Izizi greedily sucked in the blood essence, and a blurry expression appeared on her face. However, the other princes were no longer calm. Looking at their brother who was hung up in the air, their limbs twitched, their eyes rolled up, their skin became whiter and whiter, and in the blink of an eye, they became just skin and bones. Slurp, Izizi couldn't help but let out a sound. Don't let them get away, Izizi said faintly. The corpse Kuan behind her seemed to have woken up, and it emitted a terrifying aura. Boom, boom. In the other two directions, two more corpse Kuan drilled out from the ground, and those huge heads stared at the princes. Surrounded by three corpse Kuns, the princes were scared witless. They were smart enough to know that they were done for today. I have no enmity with you, why do you want to kill us? Zhu couldn't help but ask. Even if he was going to die, he had to understand. Izizi slowly walked over and said with a sweet smile, Who said that one must have a grudge to kill? You. Little big brother, you don't have to be too sad, it's hard for everyone to avoid death. Believe me, your death is heavier than a goose feather, Wrong, heavier than Mount Tai, lighter than Mount Tai? Izizi rubbed her head with both of her hands. I wrote it down from memory last night, how could I have forgotten about it? Zhu summoned his courage and roared, We're princes of heaven's sanctum. You won't have it easy either. I know that you are princes and there is also a crown prince. Izizi said with a mischievous smile. She seemed like a sinister little lowly. Zhu said in a deep voice, You're talking about Zhu Jingqing? Are you here for Zhu Jingqing? You can say that I am. This idiot provoked someone that he shouldn't have provoked. Zhu Jingqing is not here, he is in another direction, you can just go and find him. Zhu hurriedly reported the location. Izizi laughed, I know, I will go after I kill you all. It seems like it's useless to say so much. Zhu was confused and questioned, Why do you want to kill us? Because of Zhu Jingqing. Izizi had a look of, You are an idiot, is there even a need to ask on her face? Then why don't you go and find Zhu Jingqing? Because you all aren't dead yet. Izizi stood on her feet and stroked the spirit goat beside her, and that spirit goat closed its eyes comfortably. Zhu remained silent for a while, then asked one last question. I want to know, will Zhu Jingqing die too? He won't die. PFFF. Zhu spat out a mouthful of blood from anger. It was obviously Zhu Jingqing who caused all of this, why did he not die in the end and yet I have to die for him? In this life I am just a foil, even if I die I will still be like this. Zhu is not willing to accept this. Wow, you are so angry to the point of vomiting blood, just how big of a grudge do you all have against each other? Izizi cried out in surprise. It was very rare for someone to vomit blood from anger. Zhu seemed to have collapsed in an instant, then said, A very big grudge. It's a pity that I have a mission to complete. I am unable to help you take revenge. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. His honor's order was to leave Zhu Jingqing alive, and the other princes will do as they see fit. The meaning of do as they see fit was very clear, that is, death. There was no other possibility. However, when these words fell into the ears of the princes, it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck them, causing their ears to ring. This little girl actually has a mission to complete? Then who is the person who gave her the mission? Everyone's scalp went numb and they couldn't help but think of the bloody glow. The legend is real. When the bloody glow appears, the country will face disaster. However, I can let you all die together. At least you all will be able to see each other's miserable state. What do you think? Yi Zizi suggested. Zhu Yun agreed to Yi Zizi's suggestion without even thinking. If I am really going to die, I want to see them suffer the same fate as me. On the other side, Zhu Jingqing had already charged into the depths of Changlin, just that, along the way they did not encounter any spiritual beasts. Zhu Di said gravely, Your Highness the Crown Prince, I have a bad feeling about this. Zhu Di, why are you acting the same as Wu Mahan? Zhu Jingqing said gravely. This Zhu Jingqing doesn't learn his lesson at all. Back then when he was at Ji family, Wu Mahan had a bad premonition. If he had gone back to Ji family back then, everything would have been fine. Right now Zhu Di also had a bad premonition. This Zhu Jingqing is still the same, he doesn't listen to advice. However, this time even if he listens to advice he won't be able to run away. Zhu Di didn't dare to say anything, fearing that he would anger the crown prince. After circling around the depths of Changlin, Zhu Jingqing didn't see any spiritual beasts, and this caused Zhu Jingqing to be puzzled. Your Highness the Crown Prince, Zhu Yun and the others have been discovered ahead of us. A prince rushed over and reported. Zhu Jingqing snorted coldly. From the looks of it, those spiritual beasts were scared away by my prestige. If that's the case, we can only kill them. Jia. With Zhu Jingqing at the lead, the group of princes rushed toward Zhu Yun. When Zhu Jingqing saw Zhu Yun and the others standing together, Zhu Jingqing pulled the horse under him and said with a smile, Imperial brother, this year we are not going for a sneak attack, but an open attack? Zhu Jingqing. Just what did you do? Zhu Yun shouted coldly. This fellow must have done something outrageous, otherwise, how could he have offended such a ferocious person? Impudent, you actually dare to speak of the crown prince's name. Zhu Di shouted angrily. Chapter 403. It was normal for princes to dislike each other, but it was rare for them to curse like this. Even if they wanted to curse, they would curse behind someone's back. However, it was rare to curse in front of someone's face, not to mention that the person being cursed was the crown prince. Zhu Zhu's curse made the princes on Zhu Jingqing's side very surprised, but Zhu Yun's side was much more normal. Zhu Zhu, do you know the crime of cursing this crown prince? If you have the guts, try cursing again. Zhu Jingqing's face didn't look good after all, it was in front of so many people. Crime. Isn't it just losing your head? This daddy is cursing you, Zhu Jingqing, you bastard. Damn Zhu Jingqing, even if this daddy becomes a ghost, I will kill you. Zhu Jingqing, you bastard, this daddy will kill your whole family. All kinds of curses started to attack Zhu Jingqing, which made him feel that something was wrong, but he didn't care. Instead, he suspected that this was a trap. Zhu Yun, I didn't expect that this year there will be no sneak attacks or open attacks, but a war of words. Zhu Jingqing couldn't help but mock them. He planned to kill a few to show his strength, then beat up the rest to let them know that this crown prince wasn't someone to be trifled with. Zhu Yun coldly laughed. Zhu Jingqing, what kind of stupid thing did you do? Don't you have any idea? Do you know how many people you will kill? Zhu Jingqing's heart sank. He couldn't help but think about what happened a few days ago. Could it be that other than Che Hongliang, Zhu Yun also knew? It must be Che Hongliang who told him. Damn, they are all despicable people. It seems like this person can't be left alive today. Hearing Zhu Yun's words, coupled with the attitude of the princes, Zhu Di was puzzled, feeling that something was wrong. The princes behind were also discussing in low voices. After all, the princes weren't fools. Could it be that something really happened? What did this crown prince do that angered even the gods? Crown prince, what do you think? Zhu Di asked, seemingly wanting to hear the crown prince's explanation. This made Zhu Jingqing very unhappy. Zhu Di, what kind of attitude is this? Are you questioning this crown prince? I don't dare, Judith hurriedly said. However, she was a little unhappy in her heart. Yelling at her in front of so many princes was not giving her any face at all. Zhu Yun suddenly laughed, then became more and more crazy, making everyone think that Zhu Yun was stupid. Ah! You're all going to die, ha ha ha. We are all going to die, ha 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 ha. Following this crazy laughter, Zhu Yun's faction couldn't help but laugh, but there were also people who cried. Zhu Jinqing's people were all very surprised. It was fine if one of them was crazy, but all of them had gone crazy. Could it be that they had been bewitched? Moreover, for them to say such words, it was very puzzling. Zhu Jinqing looked on coldly, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. This laughter seemed to be mocking him. Beat him up. If he dies, it's on me. Zhu Jinqing, who had flown into a rage out of humiliation, seemed to have gone mad as well. The princes behind him were also very obedient. They immediately rode their horses over and started a one-sided beating. At the end of the day, they didn't really dare to kill him. In the past, there were times when they failed, but those were normal fights between the two sides. But this time, Zhu Yun and the others from the prince's faction didn't fight back at all. They were still laughing and crying when they were beaten. This made the princes who were fighting stop. Something was not right. You guys are really noisy. The sudden voice caused all the princes to be stunned for a moment. They immediately looked over, their eyes were filled with doubt and greed. Of course, Zhu Yun's side was filled with the fear of impending death. Although Zhu Jinqing didn't like this kind of thing, when he saw such a cute little girl, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. Yi Zizi sat on the spirit goat's back, sizing up the group of princes. Sucking them should be very enjoyable. Little sister, where did you come from? Are you lost? Zhu Jinqing jumped down from his horse, revealing a warm smile. Yi Zizi also revealed a sweet smile. Little brother, are you Zhu Jinqing? Zhu Jinqing paused, then immediately smiled. That's right, I am Zhu Jinqing, the current crown prince. That's good. Yi Zizi's sweet smile instantly turned dark, causing everyone to feel that something was wrong. Bang, bang, bang. 3 loud sounds shook the sky, and 3 corpse Kuan drilled out from the ground. Those thick, long and huge bodies surrounded everyone. Their huge heads stared at everyone from 3 directions, and the mucus dripping from the corners of their mouths corroded the grass. This is a vicious beast. It's a corpse Kuan. Heavens! How could a corpse Kuan appear in Changlin? This is impossible. The princes on Zhu Jinqing's side could not remain calm, and pulled out their swords, looking at the 3 huge corpse Kuan in fear. All dead, ha ha. Zhu Yun laughed maniacally. Yi Zizi pouted, so noisy. A strand of hair with a sharp wind drilled into the back of Zhu Yun's head, and the laughter immediately stopped. His whole body began to twitch, and in the blink of an eye he was reduced to skin and bones. This sudden change caused all the princes to be dumbfounded. Who was this little girl? Who are you? Zhu Jinqing had no other thoughts, and his face immediately changed. With 3 corpse Kuan looking down on him, if he could still remain calm, then he was not an ordinary person. Yi Zizi jumped down from the spirit goat and took small steps. Zhu Jinqing, don't you know who I am? Seeing that Yi Zizi was approaching him step by step, Zhu Jinqing unconsciously retreated, and soon after, his butt fell onto the ground. This made him think back to 3 days ago. How could there be such a person in that kind of low-level world with such strength, and to even be able to control 3 corpse Kuan? Yi Zizi swept her gaze across everyone, then said with a smile, I am not only targeting Zhu Jinqing, I am also targeting everyone here. Because of him, all of you are going to die. Everyone finally understood why Zhu Yun went crazy. Seems like he already knew that he was going to die. Crown Prince, aren't you going to give us an explanation? Zhu Di was still rather calm, and he shouted out towards Zhu Jinqing. No, I don't know anything. Zhu Jinqing didn't even think too much and immediately jumped onto his unicorn, then ran away madly and even ran past the corpse Kuan. Everyone thought that Zhu Jinqing was going to die, and he was going to die very miserably. But nothing happened. Those corpse Kuan didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun, and that little girl also didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun. Zhu Jinqing ran away just like that. When some princes saw that even the crown prince ran away and didn't get injured, they began to imitate Zhu Yun and immediately got onto their unicorn and ran away. Yi Zizi grinned, and several strands of hair flew into the sky. Those princes who were riding on the unicorn were instantly pierced through the back of their heads, and all of them hung in the sky. I said, all of you are going to die. With a cruel smile on her face, Yi Zizi began sucking the blood essence of the gods. Chapter 404. I like it, Yizizi said softly. Her twin ponytails immediately flew up, and countless strands of hair silently pierced through the back of everyone's head. Only Judi didn't. Her black hair gradually turned blood red, and a layer of crimson appeared on Yizizi's face. She even closed her eyes in intoxication. Judi looked at the scene in front of her and felt that her heart was about to stop. The hand that was holding onto the sword trembled intensely. Why am I not dead? Why is she keeping me alive? In the blink of an eye, other than Judi, all of the princes turned into skin and bones, just like a layer of paper stacked together. I haven't felt so good for a long time, too amazing. You're amazing. Yizizi was so excited that even her sweet voice changed, becoming deep and ghostly. Because she was too excited, that cute face looked especially sinister. After a long time, Yizizi calmed down and returned to normal. I am not like that usually. Judi, you don't need to explain, you are just like that, that was your true appearance just now. You devil. Licking the corner of her lips, Yizizi let out a sweet voice. You can go. Judi was confused, why did she let me go? I heard that devils like to see their enemies running away and enjoy that instant of pleasure before killing them to satisfy their perverted psychological needs. Could it be that this little girl is the same? If you don't go, I will also suck you. Yizizi snorted lightly. Judi didn't dare to think too much, running away was better than being sucked, at least there was a trace of hope. Just like that, Yizizi looked at Judi running away and didn't chase after her. Judi, who was running away, felt very heavy in her heart. If her body turned cold and her head was removed, she would definitely not be surprised. However, after running for a period of time, nothing actually happened, seems like the other party really let me go. I immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Yizizi took in a deep breath and yawned. She jumped onto the spirit goat and started to head towards the direction where the two ran away, because there was still something that she hadn't announced yet. As for why she let Judi go, this was also Yizizi's sudden change of mind. Although she let Zhu Jinqing go, Yizizi felt that she couldn't let him have it too easy. If she let another person go and told the truth about the situation here, that crown prince would probably panic. If Yi Hua knew that Yizizi had such a mind, he would definitely be very gratified. Yizizi was no longer that little girl who only knew how to suck up humans. Right now, she had also become courageous and resourceful, and was able to destroy the enemy from within. The imperial guards were stationed outside the temporary courtyard. As the commander, Wu Machao was patrolling to see if there were any signs of enemies. His bright eyes were looking at Chang Lin, who was not far away. Suddenly, Wu Machao's gaze focused. A horse ran out of the forest. Open the door. Hurry up and open the door. Zhu Jingqing, who was on the horse, shouted in a panic. Wu Machao shouted, open the door. Zhu Jingqing, who was running at top speed, suddenly felt weak and fell off his horse. When the soldiers saw the crown prince fall off his horse, they rushed over. Wu Machao walked over with a puzzled expression. Your Highness. Water. 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 Zhu Jingqing's face was slack and his eyes were filled with deep fear. A soldier took the water bottle and Zhu Jingqing took it and drank it. After drinking the water, he calmed down a little. Wu Machao asked in a deep voice, Your Highness, where are the other princes? Dead. They're all dead. Zhu Jingqing murmured. He looked like he was quite frightened. Hearing Zhu Jingqing's answer, Wu Machao's expression tightened. He asked, Your Highness, this matter cannot be joked about. What happened? Monster. They're all monsters. They're all dead. Zhu Jingqing yelled at Wu Machao. Wu Machao's expression darkened. He immediately shouted, Pass down my order. All troops be on guard. Report. Prince Judi has returned. A soldier quickly came over to report. Not long after, Judi rode his horse back with a gloomy expression. He jumped off his horse and looked at the exhausted Zhu Jingqing. Wu Machao frowned. The crown prince had said that everyone was dead. How could there still be someone alive? He walked forward and asked, Prince Judi, what happened? Judi, with an obscure expression, walked past Wu Machao towards Zhu Jingqing. He lowered his head to look at the person who should have died and raised his fist. Bang! This fist ruthlessly landed on Zhu Jingqing's face. Wu Machao was stunned. Judi was Zhu Jingqing's trusted aide. He was like his own son. What was happening today? Wu Machao didn't expect things to turn out like this. He immediately pulled back the rampaging Judi. Prince, you'll get into trouble like this. Beating up the crown prince was a serious crime. Moreover, there were so many people watching. Don't pull me back. I'm going to kill this animal today. Zhu Di felt a wave of lingering fear when he thought about what had just happened. Although he had helped the crown prince, that was only a power struggle. However, this was related to the safety of the empire, and he had crossed the line. That little girl had killed all the princes. He wouldn't let her off so easily. Following Zhu Di's curses, all the soldiers were shocked. This Prince Zhu Di dared to insult the crown prince. Did he not want to live anymore? Zhu Jingqing, who had been punched, seemed to wake up. He stood up and gave the prince a kick. Mother Ker, I'll kill you, Zhu Jingqing coldly shouted. Wu Ma Chao immediately gave the order to separate the two and bring them to see the emperor. Right now, Zhu Qingxian was currently pampering an imperial concubine. Right when he was about to do it, a voice sounded out from outside the door. Your Majesty, the crown prince and the princes have started fighting. Zhu Qingxian was originally very excited, but when he heard what the emperor said, he immediately lost all interest. Zhu Qingxian stood up, and that imperial concubine's face was filled with hidden bitterness. Just a little bit more. After arriving at the front hall, Zhu Qingxian looked at his two sons and asked gravely, "What happened to the two of you? You even caused a ruckus here." Father Emperor. Zhu Jingqing caused a huge ruckus. Zhu Di knelt onto the ground. Before Zhu Jingqing could say anything, a soldier hurriedly rushed in. Fear could be seen on the soldier's face as he said, "Your Majesty." A little girl appeared in Changlanshi. Hearing the word little girl, Zhu Jingqing and Zhu Di's expression immediately changed. What happened to her? Zhu Qingxian asked gravely. She kidnapped all the princes. What? Zhu Qingxian suddenly stood up and shouted out. The might of an emperor immediately spread out. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Let me go and take a look." "I will go with you. The two of you kneel here." After finished speaking, the emperor didn't even look at his two sons and walked out of the front hall with Wu Ma Chao. Chapter 405. Behind Yi Zizi, the three corpse Kun stood upright. Their enormous bodies emitted a tyrannical aura that soared to the heavens. Although the soldiers stationed outside the courtyard stood firm, their bodies were trembling. They had never seen such a scene before. After all, they were only the guards of the imperial palace. They were only responsible for the safety of the imperial palace, and there had been no casualties in the imperial palace for the past 1,000 years. Some of the family members of the princes in the courtyard seemed to have received some news. Then, seeing the emperor hurriedly walk out, they all followed him out to observe the situation. When Zhu Qingxian and Wu Ma Chao stood on the temporary stone wall, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of princes were suspended in mid-air, their faces filled with terror and terror. Zhu Qingxian gripped the wall tightly with both hands, his eyes filled with anger. Those were his sons. That's a corpse Kuan, a vicious beast from outside the border. Not a single one has appeared in 1,000 years, but now 3 have appeared. How is this possible? Wu Ma Chao muttered with fear in his eyes. Having guarded the border for many years, he understood this kind of vicious beast the best. It was incomparably brutal. At that time he was still a young man. He had followed his father and encountered the corpse Kuan once. That battle had resulted in countless casualties before the corpse Kuan was repelled. However, his father was heavily injured and passed away in the last few years. Could be seen how powerful this vicious beast was. Zhu Qingxian calmed down and shouted in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why are you capturing this emperor's sons? Hurry up and let them go." "No," Yi Zizi mumbled as she sucked on her lollipop. Why did this sentence sound so helpless and infuriating? Zhu Qingxian was infuriated. His words were like a sharp blade stabbing into his chest. Go save this emperor's son. Where is the heavenly master? Where is my heavenly master?" "Your Majesty, the celestial master is ill and did not come," Wu Ma Chao said in a deep voice. Ingwei did not come. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with the emperor. "Your Majesty, calm down. This is a corpse Kuan, you can't act rashly. Otherwise, the consequences will be unthinkable." Wu Ma Chao tried his best to persuade them. This small number of people wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps between the corpse Kuan's teeth. This emperor's child. The princes struggled helplessly in midair. They looked at their father on the stone wall and stretched out their hands. This was a son's plea to his father for help. "Father, please save your son." "Imperial father, I don't want to die. I didn't participate in the power struggle. I don't want to die." The princes' wives were also standing on the stone walls. When they saw their husbands, they couldn't help but cover their faces in disbelief. Some even cried loudly, and some even knelt behind Emperor Zhu Qingxian, begging him to save their husbands. They were all innocent. "Hey, are you the emperor?" Yi Zizi shouted at Zhu Qingxian. Zhu Qingxuan's breathing was rapid, but he had calmed down a little. "I am." Yi Zizi licked her lollipop. "I finally found you. The reason why I came here today is to pass on His Honor's decree." "Your Honor." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How did they provoke a supreme being? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Zhu Qingxuan's anger subsided a lot as he asked. "Just ask the crown prince and you'll know." Yi Zizi slowly floated in the air and flew towards Zhu Qingxian. The princes in the air also hovered over. "What are you trying to do?" Wuma Caohu shouted in front of Zhu Qingxian. Yi Zizi retracted her smile and said coldly, "According to His Honor's decree, you have 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, His Honor will come here and bathe the imperial city in blood." As soon as she finished speaking, hundreds of princes violently twitched and instantly turned into skin and bones. All the generals were stunned. They couldn't even muster the will to resist. This was not a fight on the same level. Zhu Qingxuan's eyes were bloodshot as he watched his son die in front of him. He clenched his fists tightly, and the princes' wives all cried until they fainted. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop again. 3 days? Hurry up and bring out your strongest abilities. Don't disappoint His Honor. Goodbye. After she finished speaking, she revealed a cute smile and disappeared into the air. The 3 corpse Kuan drilled into the ground and disappeared without a trace. However, they were still hidden dangers. Zhu Qingxian looked at the skin and bones on the ground. His head was dizzy and his body fell backwards. "Your Majesty." Wuma Caohu hurriedly supported him. Zhu Qingxian grabbed Wuma Caohu's arm. His eyes were bloodshot and his face was distorted. "Go back. I need to properly interrogate that unfilial son." On top of the stone wall, everyone was crying. The soldiers' bodies were stiff, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their legs. Outside, hundreds of skin and bones were scattered. The scene was shocking. This made everyone realize a problem. In front of absolute power, even the imperial family had no way to resist. Zhu Qingxian hurriedly walked towards the hall. His expression was frighteningly gloomy. Behind him, Wuma Caohu was also frowning. This matter was actually related to the crown prince and his son's disappearance? Could it be? Thinking about this, Wuma Caohu emitted a faint killing intent. At this moment, Zhu Jingqing and Zhu Di were still kneeling in the hall. When they heard the footsteps outside, they immediately lowered their heads. Especially Zhu Jingqing, he could no longer remain calm. Zhu Qingxian walked towards the crown prince and fiercely kicked Zhu Jingqing, sending him flying. Then he immediately sat on the main seat. Zhu Jingqing's body was like a cannonball as he fiercely smashed out of the room. Waves of muffled sounds rang out from outside. Could be seen how powerful the kick was. "Zhu Di, tell me what happened." Zhu Di didn't dare to lie and told everything that happened just now. Zhu Qingxian felt a wave of dizziness after hearing it and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. "Your Majesty." "Father Emperor." At this moment, waves of hurried footsteps rang out from outside again. The Empress, Che Mainyang and Che Hongliang could be seen appearing. "Your Majesty Yun, oh where's my Yun?" Che Mainyang's beautiful face revealed a panicked expression. Meanwhile, Che Hongliang hurriedly bowed with a grave expression. "Empress, out of all the princes only Zhu Jingqing and I are left, the other princes have all died," Zhu Di said sorrowfully. Che Mainyang blankly looked at Zhu Di who was kneeling on the ground. "A few hours ago my son was alive and well and a few hours later he told me that he died." "Empress?" Che Hongliang cried out in surprise. The Empress could be seen directly fainting on the ground. Emperor Zhu Qingxian gasped for breath and said coldly, Go and bring that unfilial son over." "Yes." Wuma Caohu replied coldly. After quite a while, Wuma Caohu carried Zhu Jingqing over. Right now, Zhu Jingqing's entire body was covered in blood, and he had suffered very serious external injuries. However, his life was not in danger. "But tell me everything in full detail. I, the Emperor, have lost a few hundred of my sons today. I don't mind losing another one." Zhu Qingxian stared fixedly at Zhu Jingqing. What that little girl said just now was very obvious. Everything that happened was because of Zhu Jingqing. "This is Highness the Crown Prince." "Father Emperor, I'll speak. Right now, how would Zhu Jingqing dare to hide anything? Your son accidentally found Yuwa's bloodline and Donghuang's bloodline. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.